FPL managers, we are live, and this is your Scoutcast match day for game week 4. It's a good start. We've got Chelsea versus Palace, and I'm joined by Seb. Seb, how you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm a little tired, but I've got my coffee and I've got Timo Werner starting, so it gets better from here, right? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, and like you, I'm really engaged in this game because I've got Werner. I have kept the faith. And I did think I had Reece James, but the big news in terms of team news, guys, is Reece James is on the bench. As Palaqueta comes in, the back four is Zuma partnered with Thiago Silva, which I think could be a partnership moving forward, the two French-speaking centre-backs. But Werner plays from the left. Havertz does start. Hudson-Odoi starts after his goal last week. So yeah, we're expecting goals today, are we, Seb? What are your predictions for Chelsea Palace? Do we think Werner will finally get a goal or two?
So one of the reasons I held on to Werner myself was for maybe that penalty shout. We've got
Yeah.
Jorginho playing, so I don't think we're going to see a 0-0. I'm less confident on Werner than I was last night when I kept him, but as I was saying to you just before we kicked off, it was almost holding the transfer as much as the player. Timo Werner's got Crystal Palace. He's got, I think, Southampton next. It's not terrible. It could be worse. He's a very, very good player. We'll see how that goes. In terms of the match itself, I think realistically you fancy Chelsea, but we know Palace can do a job in these matches. So I wonder if what we see in the first 5-10 minutes will be quite indicative of what the rest of the match is going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And Seb, just for those of you that don't know, both myself and Seb, I'm fairly new to Scoutcast Matchday. We're going to be doing one game every week. When there's Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs, that will be the aim, to do multiple games, a bit like a Gillette Soccer Saturday. And Seb, tell us a little bit about your background, because you've just been telling me you work at Football Manager, but also you've had a 389th finish in FPL last year, so you're an absolute pro. But in terms
Oh,
of your day job, it's pretty interesting, right? Features manager at FM, that's cool.
features designer,
Features
yes.
designer.
So my job with a load of other people. So my job title is feature designer, but feature design is a collaborative thing. It involves quite literally 100, if not more, people. My job, I guess, is to sit somewhat in the middle of that. And sure, there's some fun parts like getting to be involved in the creative process, the concept side, but also it's my responsibility to keep our documentation up to date. So quite literally documents that are tens of thousands of words long, detailing how the feature will work, and spreadsheets for all the balancing and everything. But that's working alongside QA, obviously more towards the end of the process, but throughout our PR department, the UI UX designers who are a massive part of it. Realistically, you see more of their work than you see of my work. My job's to look after all the underlying stuff. They're the ones that present it in game and get it working amazing for the user on the other end. And then, of course, all the devs and everyone else who's involved in the process, not to mention our studio director. So yeah, a lot of balancing a few things, and probably sitting in the middle of a process involves many more people than just me.
But you also do the research for Leeds, which is your team. So in the Premier League this season, Leeds Man City later is a massive game in FPL. For someone like me that's got triple City, I've gone with City because I just think there's gonna be goals. Are you thinking Leeds City is going to be as open as I am? Are we going to get loads of goals later?
I mean, based on what we've seen so far from both teams, it'd be pretty hard to see a 0-0 there, right?
Yeah.
I think Leeds maybe look more open than we are. Not saying we're not going to concede goals, but we've played Liverpool obviously so far. Conceded a couple of penalties. I think we've conceded 3 penalties so far, which come with about a zero point 0.8 xg. So that's going to bump our numbers up. And also the system with which we defend is a very strict man marking system that leaves one centre back free at the back to sweep up or pick up extra players. Most of the Premier League, if not all the Premier League, I think, operate with a zonal marking system. So when you're used to seeing that very solid, one bank of four, even two banks of four, and them shifting as a line, when you watch us, you're gonna see a centre back or a right back just disappear because their man has gone. But that's actually the idea of our defence. Now, that doesn't mean it will work in the Premier League.
Hmm.
It worked very well in the Championship for us. But obviously, there's a big difference between Luke Ayling marking Sadio Mane and a Championship left winger.
Yeah.
But I think we look a little more open than we actually are, and the proof will be in give it 5, 6, 7, 8 games, and see if we can actually shut down those teams that are more equable in quality to us.
Yeah.
Today, we were talking earlier. I think you saw those spaces that Lundstram found against us for Sheffield United last week. Those look like prime KDB space, just that little right of centre coming into the box. So while I am a Leeds fan, and while I hope you get no points today, Gianni, I also have captained KDB.
Nice. Okay, good. Well, I'm a Sterling captainer, so yeah, but I am a KDB owner, so I'm hoping KDB does get into those positions. And guys, loads of you are on the chat. Thank you for joining us. Hello to Youssef Frode, Martin, James, Graf, Murphy. Please do get your questions in. We're obviously going to be watching along to Chelsea versus Palace to kick off game week 4. We will be on probably a 20-second delay. I'm watching on BT, and when you stream on YouTube, there's always a delay. So, if you're watching the game, you might see there's a goal a little bit before we do, but those in the chat will be keeping us up to date, and I've got my phone on me as well. So do stay with us. Of course, we're expecting you'll be watching the game, but hopefully you're watching it on mute and you're watching us alongside that. So good to have you with us. Seb, what are your thoughts on the Chelsea lineup today? Because there's no Mason Mount. He has played every minute, by the way, of every game, so he is due a rest. But the three behind Tammy will be Havertz in the middle, Hudson-Odoi on the right, and Werner on the left. Werner on the left. Do we like that from an FPL perspective, or do we want to see him down the middle? I mean, ideally, we want to see him in the front too, but like he was at Leipzig. But we're not going to see that at Chelsea, I don't think, are we?
Yeah, I think Leipzig was the 4-2-2-2,
Yeah.
quite a bit, which is one of those, you see a lot of people saying, oh, he's not playing up front, or he's playing up front. Oh, he's playing on the left. Even though he is lining up on the left, I think this left is different to where he was at Leipzig. He did line up next to a striker, but then drifted towards that left and occupied that channel. Maybe a bit like a Rashford or Martial might if they start up front. So I think there is a difference here, and we've seen in the game so far he's not been as involved as we want. All we need is that one goal. I was hoping he might have penalty today. Unfortunately, Jorginho's in there. I think Chelsea aren't quite finished. You probably know more about that than me, right? It's maybe not even the final shape, the 4-2-3-1. I think even Kai Havertz, we know number 10 in theory is more his position, but his best returns for Leverkusen came actually playing up front as a false nine towards the end of last season. And before that, last year he started on the right and would interchange up front. And he has played at number 10, but he played at 10 when Kevin Volland would start up front for them, or Lucas Alario, which took a lot of them dropping back, him coming forward. So maybe again, him lining up at 10 isn't necessarily, it's not an Ozil 10. It's more where he ends up as opposed to where he starts. So I think when you have a few more players back, when you've settled into a rhythm, when Lampard's worked out what shape he wants to play, we might see the true Chelsea there. Yeah. What about you? What do you reckon on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. We need to see how these players gel together, but we also need to see what business will be done and what the shape will look like when everyone is fit. So there is still talk that Declan Rice could come in. Could that change us to a 4-3-3? I think 4-2-3-1 is what Frank eventually wants to do, but of course we've still got Ziyech to come in, and how will that look like in terms of a front three, front four? How will Havertz and Werner link up? Will there need to be that big number 9 striker, Tammy or Giroud, or one of them drop out? I think it was really interesting to see last season when we knew there was a good chance Havertz was going to come to the league and we knew Werner was coming. We watched the Bundesliga, and because it was the first league back, one of the first leagues back, and we saw Havertz playing 9 and he just looked brilliant, didn't he? Almost, a 9 dropping deep, kind of a little bit like a Firmino 9 at times. And I don't want to use the term false 9 because I don't think that's accurate with him, but also Werner's positions and how Werner likes to get in behind and how Leipzig played so well on the counter. Now, unfortunately, Chelsea will come up against loads of teams in the Premier League, like West Brom last week, like Crystal Palace this week, that will play such a defensive low line that it will be deep line. It will be very hard to find space in behind. So I think Werner's going to be at his best when he's up against Brighton, like on the opening day, who have got quite a high line and that they've got a lot of the ball, or even against the better teams in the league, maybe away from home more often. But the home games against the teams like Roy Hodgson teams or Slavan Bilic teams is going to be very tricky, I think, for him to find space. But saying that, this is a striker that is more than just one-dimensional. If he's given opportunities, he will take them. He's incredibly clinical. So that was part of my thinking for keeping Werner. Yes, it might not be the perfect setup for him at the moment, but he only needs 2 or 3 chances to score. He's got a really good conversion rate in Germany, left foot, right foot. And we saw in the Carabao Cup against Spurs, a brilliant finish to open his account for Chelsea. So I am quite hopeful today that he gets something. If he does blank, like many FPL managers out there, I might be dropping him. What are your thoughts with FPL, Seb? If he blanks today and doesn't pass the eye test, because, he could blank and look really good and then you keep him. If both those things happen though, he doesn't look good and he blanks, do you sell him?
I guess that's almost you're saying looking good but blanking, although he got an assist in the first week. I was thinking, oh, this is a good shout. He looks sure he's new, he's settling, whatever, but it looks like there's points there. I think what you're saying about him not finding that space is true. He's got Southampton next, remember, who gave a lot of space to a few teams so far.
Yeah, Spurs loved. Son loved that.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was playing on the left, was he? I know he moved up front, but
Yeah.
that sounds a little bit familiar to a Timo Werner position.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets injured or something today. Of course, we get rid of him. But we have the international break. One of the reasons I still have him and don't have Danny Ings is I want the 2 transfers for that international break. I've still got a wild card as well.
Yeah.
And I'll give myself some time to think about it. I don't think I need to rush into anything there. He's going to score goals this season. Maybe he doesn't score enough to be 9.5, but he's got Crystal Palace today and Southampton up next. If I had to hold him, I'm happy to do it for a Southampton fixture.
Yeah, that's a great fixture, as you say. Look what Spurs did to them. Look what Leicester did to Southampton, the 9-0 from last season. They will want the ball, they will press high, and Ralph Hasenhüttl doesn't seem to change game plan. Against Spurs, he kept that high line, and it played into Kane and Son's hands. What do we think to Pulisic, though? And the game has kicked off, by the way, guys. It's still 0-0. We'll keep you up to date with any chances, both watching it as it happens. Pulisic coming in, probably for game week 5. He's on the bench today. We expect he'll probably get 10-20 minutes today. Will that mean Pulisic left, Werner central as a lone 9, or do you think Frank will continue to go with one of Giroud or Tammy? Because I think eventually he wants Werner as a standalone 9. He just needs him to settle into that role. Pulisic on the left, Ziyech on the right, Werner down the middle. That's what I think. Havertz in behind. Mason Mount might then become a box-to-box midfielder. He's so versatile. Mount is always one that seems to be in Frank's thinking. He misses out today, but he's played every minute so far this season. So yeah, do you think Pulisic will come in on the left and Werner down the middle?
I almost, as you alluded to there, I feel like Mount is the key.
Yeah.
In so many lineups I've seen on Twitter, and what I would do myself, I would maybe not include Mount. Not because he's not a decent player, but if you look at everyone there's got available, I think he's never first choice in a position. Clearly he is for Lampard.
Yeah.
But for me, I'd be tempted to leave him out. You've got then Ziyech on the right. You can have Pulisic on the left, Havertz behind Werner. And that can be pretty fluid. I think even if Timo Werner does start up front, that interchange with Kai Havertz might be really, really smart. It might allow Werner to drift left, Kai Havertz to come through, Pulisic to cut inside, and Ziyech to thread them all through. I think eventually the player, before he got injured, the player I did have from Chelsea was Hakim Ziyech. His stats are outrageous. And while, of course, that's in the Eredivisie, he repeated it in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And in pre-season for Chelsea, he was on set pieces. He looked dangerous.
Got the assist for
whether you own him or not.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whether you own him or not, I wonder if he might be the one that unlocks that. And therefore, I think he's nailed on the right. I think you're right, Timo Werner up front. Even though I'm a big Giroud fan, and I feel like Giroud is absolutely the player to bring all these players into a match, I just don't know if you find the spot for him. Do you think maybe going forward, we're just looking at a fair bit of rotation? You know, like you said yourself, Mason Mount is going to play, Kante is going to play. That leaves 4 spots further forward, and you've got to think Werner and Havertz play most of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there will be rotation. Look, more than ever before. By the way, Chilwell's just taken a corner, guys. So Chilwell on corners from the right for Chelsea, which is promising from an FPL perspective. Reece James isn't playing today and has been on corners. Ziyech probably will come into them, and of course Mason Mount's not on the pitch. But good to know Chilwell 5.5 left back on corners. Yeah, I think
a lot going through Hudson-Odoi on the right at the moment as well.
Yeah,
whether that is where the ball's flowing or whether they're trying, that seems to be where it's going, which you'd hope Werner can tuck in then maybe.
Yeah, and with Azpilicueta behind Hudson-Odoi, he'll be a little less advanced than a Reece James. So Hudson-Odoi hugging that touchline. Yeah, I think you're right. Really interesting that Ziyech's numbers, as you say, you look at the Eredivisie and think, oh, okay, that's not great. But then you look at the Champions League form and his goal involvement in the Champions League was super good. So Azpilicueta with a good ball in, dangerous cross there.
Havertz so close to that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And he's
and that's exactly that position. Abraham coming off the far post, Havertz coming in. If he gets going, Havertz along with Ziyech is very, very tempting.
That's a Frank Lampard position from Havertz there. Drifted in from midfield and unmarked. No midfield trackers, no midfield runners. Coyote's playing centre back and won the ball. So another Chelsea corner. Chilwell will be taken again. What time are you on, Seb? Just so we know. I'm on 4:45, 4:46,
I am on 5
4:47.
exactly.
Oh, okay, great. So so there's probably not much lag then between us because I'm on the BT Sport app on my laptop.
Oh, same.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So hopefully we will be keeping you up to date as early as you guys see it. Because on Sky Go, when games are on Sky, I'm often about a minute behind on Sky Go. So that's good.
Oh, I've had that. You get the notification, and
Yeah.
then you're just going, okay, well, how did that player score a goal? I guess I'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is it allows you to then like talk through it because you can be like, oh, okay, I know it's coming, so now I know I need to turn the commentary mode on. Guys, loads of you are joining us in the chat. Hello, all of you. Gregory, Aldante, Arche, the Llama Lounge, how are you? Yeah, why is James not started, says Aaron. Look, Werner is down, by the way. I'm not sure what happened there, but he's holding his face, so it's probably not going to be anything long term.
He's up and walking around here as far as I can see.
Oh, just a little elbow to the nose.
Taking a knock. No, he's okay from what I can see here.
Joel Ward.
They might be checking something.
Joel Ward sort of shepherds him out. I think it was innocent and yeah, no yellow card given. But the voice of Peter Walton is on BT, which means he's obviously given his 2 pence worth. Yeah.
Almost don't want them to go down to 10. Last time that happened, we got a blank from Timo Werner, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, please keep 11 on the pitch. So yeah, why is James not started, says Aaron. Look, James I think will be first choice long term in this Chelsea team, but he will be a rotation risk. Why? Well, Azpilicueta is club captain. He's very solid. He's a leader on the pitch. He was brought on against West Brom for I think the last 40 minutes or so. He came on, they scored 3. Alonso was hooked. Aspi can play left back, of course, but now Chilwell is there. Chilwell will be first name in that. It'll be very unlikely Chilwell misses out unless he's needs a little rest from rotation. So that does mean James and Aspi might share that spot. I think James will play more often than Aspi in the Premier League, but at the same time, I'm a James owner and I'm now starting to think I probably need to sell because if I'm spending 5 million on a defender, I want an absolute banker. I'd rather invest the extra 0.5 and go Chilwell or possibly even a 5 million Zuma if you're looking at Chelsea defenders.
Would you think there's Zaha and Eze as well today?
Yeah,
both will take that left side. I wonder if Azpilicueta is. I think they will rotate. You're right, but of all the matches they're gonna start Aspi over James. Yeah. You'd think today's the one.
Yeah, I did. I must admit, I did think that the threat of Zaha, although he's playing up front, he will naturally drift to the left, and then Eze on the left. I'm really excited about watching Eze today. I don't know about you, Seb. I didn't see much of him at QPR. I don't watch much of the Championship, but I saw his numbers, and I've seen a lot of people talking about him and how good he is. QPR fans. He could be a really exciting player for the Premier League and an FPL potential asset for Palace because I think he's 5.5 or 6. I think he's 6 in FPL, but could be quite explosive. We've seen the numbers at QPR and they're quite impressive, aren't they?
Yeah, he's 5.9. He's gone down.
He's gone down. Okay, so he started the season at 6, and he wasn't. I don't think he started the first game or two, so that's why the price drop came.
Absolutely.
But I think he'll be nailed in this team for Roy from that left, and yeah, he looks very creative, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I think you said you saw the stats from the Championship. I obviously saw bits and pieces of him in the Championship following Leeds. He was comfortably in that top 3-4 players, both stats-wise and eye test-wise.
Yeah.
I think him, Benrahma, obviously I'm a big Pablo Hernandez fan, but he played fewer minutes, so fair enough. He was very much in that bracket, and I think he immediately looks like he belongs in this team.
Yeah.
He's got exactly what Palace look for in a player going forward. You know, they set up very defensively. He's got the technical ability. He's got the tactical ability to see that space and the physical ability then to take advantage of both of those, especially with the space that Palace will have ahead of them if they drop in backwards. I think he could probably, we'll see how he gets on, but he probably could step up again. I think he, unlike, some Championship players we've seen in the past, he immediately looks at home. I don't think he looks out of place at all here. For 5.9 million, I'd maybe, Zaha is obviously you're always going to think him. Maybe I'm targeting some fixtures or something there rather than holding on to him long term. You were talking about Reece James a moment ago. I think speaking short term versus long term there, if you've got him, today is the one he misses.
Yeah.
We think he probably starts next time and maybe the time after that as well. The right time to get rid of him was last week. If you thought he wasn't going to start today, I'd be tempted to say it. Unless you've got, no other pressing issues, I'd hold on to him. Defenders for me are a slightly longer term look. Of course, we can look at fixtures and if they're likely to keep clean sheets, but I think you get much better returns chasing form strikers and vulnerable defenses as opposed to switching around your 4.55 million defenders. Those are the ones you want to hold for a bit. So I'd be tempted to hold James if I had him myself.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, Seb. And guys watching, this is a guy that finished 389th last year in FPL. I'm going to mention that so much. So you're talking from a very good place. And
I am currently 2.4 million though, so
Mate, current rank. We don't need to look at overall rank till game week 10. That's my take. That's what I'm telling myself because I'm having a.
If you could tell everyone at work that'd be great.
Yeah, I know all the screenshots of the mini league after game week 2, and you're like, behave, come on. The real work starts in game week 10, and I'm only interested in overall rank come game week 38, quite frankly. We don't talk about where you were last season in game week 4, do we? No, we talk about where you finished last season in game week 38. Sergeant Martin says Havertz is joining really well with Abraham in the box. Yeah, you're right, he is. And I think, playing in that 10 role and maybe slightly to the right suits Havertz, and we know that from Leverkusen, he likes to drift right. That will suit, and things will naturally shift across for Chelsea because Werner isn't going to hug the touchline on the left. So Werner will come quite central at times. Havertz will then move over. That should allow Chilwell loads of space down the left. Hudson-Odoi is hugging the touchline, for example, on the right. Very different to Werner on the left.
Werner has been appearing in that sort of almost 10 area with Havertz pulling forward, Abraham coming left and him popping in. I think because the ball is spending a lot of the time on the right-hand side for Chelsea at the moment, that allows him to come in.
Yeah.
When it comes wide left, he does stick to that touchline to create that space. Of course, maybe I'm slightly hopeful thinking there as well. I want to see him in the middle, not wide, but it's all right so far. He hasn't had too many touches, but he doesn't need too many to score a goal.
Yeah, exactly. Danuk says Zuma looks solid at the back at the moment, and yeah, he does, mate. I really want to know who this first choice centre-back partnership is going to be for Chelsea, because Frank is, of course, looking for a centre-back partnership, and there'll always be some rotation because we've got more games than ever before in a short amount of time. But he wants to get a settled back four. And I think that centre-back partnership, long-term, unless they make howlers, will be the two starting today. I think Zuma and Thiago Silva will complement each other. Zuma's pretty quick. Not as quick as Tomori, I might add. But also the language, I think, is going to help. They've got a French-speaking goalkeeper behind them. Thiago Silva doesn't speak English. Presumably he speaks French. He's played in France long enough. Zuma's obviously, a native French speaker. I think
speaks the language of football, Gianni. Speaks the language of football.
Yeah, true. But to help settle Thiago Silva into the league, not that he should need much settling, but I think that is going to be the first choice pairing. Christensen and Tomori, I think, will be the two kind of bench centre backs. And Rudiger, of course, is very likely to leave. I am excited for Tomori long term as a Chelsea fan. I think he's probably a little bit raw.
And Timo Werner got a touch in the box, but it was not a good one. He tried to flick it up, to himself and just knocked it out going for a goal kick. They put it out for a throw-in.
Okay, yeah, I'm just watching that now.
With Chilwell coming, if you're watching where Chilwell's coming, I wonder if that's allowing Timo Werner to stick in quite a bit. If you think, obviously not quite the same, but if you think of Robertson and Amane, if someone is occupying that right back and occupying that space, Timo Werner gets to come inside, doesn't he?
Yeah, it will suit really well. Chilwell will at times have an average position on the pitch similar to Hudson-Odoi on the right, despite one being a left back and one being a right-sided forward. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And I do think Jorginho pulling the strings nicely in the middle. He's getting a bit of space, Jorginho. I think I saw a possession stat on screen that said 85% possession to Chelsea not long ago. So maybe that was the sort of last 10 minutes or last 5 minutes stat.
I've got 80% here for the whole match. 80%. So yeah, I'd believe that.
That's pretty high. So,
although what they've had 2 shots, 2 off target, 1 inside the box, so not terrible, I guess. But how long are we in? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
This is exactly what Palace want, isn't it?
Yeah.
They will take this for the rest of the match.
As long as it stays 0-0, it's going to be this tight. What we can hope for the neutrals watching is an early goal. An early goal for Chelsea will mean hopefully Palace, whilst they will still be deep, but they press a little bit further forward maybe. Although with Uncle Roy, you never know. He's probably happy sitting on 1-0 down till the last 10 when he then has a go. But yeah,
we need a Reece James long shot. That's what we need. Get him on. Get a long shot in.
Yeah, we could do with that. And do you know what? That is a bit of a problem if we're looking at long range shooting in Chelsea's midfield. With Jorginho and Kante in there, you just cannot see goals and you can't see shots from distance and things that might just mix it up a little bit in terms of goals. Whilst Jorginho will thread some lovely balls through, you do miss Kovacic's dribbling ability, you do miss Mason Mount's late runs into the box. So they are two players that are on the bench today, Mount and Kovacic, that I think will be brought on by Frank at 60 minutes if the game is tight and if it is still 0-0. Obviously, Pulisic I expect to get minutes as well today. And from an FPL perspective, many of us have got James in our starting 11s. We're probably hoping James doesn't come on, because if he comes on and gets an hour or less, which would be very likely, and doesn't return, he's on the 1 point and he doesn't get the clean sheet points. So what do you reckon, Seb? The chances of Reece James coming in a game like this, probably pretty slim, knowing Pulisic, Mount, Kovacic, Giroud are all on the bench?
Oh, I'd say it's minimal, right? If you're putting odds on it for, risk and all that, of course it could happen, but it's one of the least likely outcomes. What do we need?
An injury to
we need an injury, or Lampard to say it's 0-0, there's 5 minutes to go. I want to go 3 at the back with Reece James coming round or something.
Yeah.
But that would mean Hudson-Odoi needs to move. So I think really you're probably safe.
I've got a scenario actually. What about Chelsea 4-0 up, 10 minutes to go? You probably put on Tomori though, don't you? You don't put on Reece James.
If you're thinking, Reece James is in the England squad, isn't he?
Yes.
So he's got internationals next week. He's probably penned in for a start against Southampton. Azpilicueta isn't playing internationals. Maybe you give him a couple of minutes, but I wouldn't.
I think he's in the under-21s first. I think he's in the under-21s, James. I don't think he's been called up to the senior squad.
Okay. Let's have a little look.
Yeah, have a look.
But I would make other subs first. I think.
Yeah, me too.
I think you've got Timo Werner, Timmy Abraham for Giroud. You possibly give Mount some time.
Yeah.
Hudson-Odoi, we'll see. Obviously, there's the transfer stuff with him. I think I'd get down to 4 or 5 transfers before I started looking at bringing Reece James on myself.
Yeah. John Tyner asks, how is Guaita doing? Look, Chelsea haven't had a shot on target. I don't think they've had a couple of shots over, so Guaita's not had anything to do yet. Chelsea have had a couple of corners, but they've been comfortably cleared. Michael asks Seb, what kind of manager are you? Are you a patient manager? Are you an aggressive manager? I mean, last season to get to 389 rank overall, you must have been, I'd say probably at the end of the season, were you pretty aggressive with that? Did you go big on Sterling and Antonio and players like that?
I guess it's kind of, I'd say a bit of both, but that's a bit of a cop-out, right? I think maybe one of the things people sometimes try to do with FPL, which is only natural, they go, I am a patient manager, or I am a reactive manager, I am this type of manager, which is only appropriate in some scenarios. I think the best type of manager you can be is flexible. And if you can try and, I say take emotion out of it, we all know this is a big part of our weekend. You know the old don't captain someone in the early game debate.
Yeah.
For me, it makes no difference.
Yeah.
But if it's going to affect your weekend, then look, fair enough. It's a game. Make the decision that is going to make you feel good about yourself. But if you can set that aside, I think you need to react to what's in front of you. We all spend so long in game week 1 planning, and if that goes well, good, you can follow that through. If it goes badly, you need to be able to identify that, but not identify it emotionally. We saw this season, people started with Son, then got rid of him, and then what happened? I think it's very, very easy. Oh, Chelsea on a counter-attack here. Timo Werner in a lot of space left. Go on. Timo Werner's had a shot on target, but straight into the goalkeeper's hands. He was coming into that sort of left-hand side position. A little bit Aubameyang, if you like, but without the finish to match.
And Havertz was the creator. Havertz won a sort of 30, 40-yard dribble this really good dribble from Havertz, puts Werner in. But yeah, Werner's doing the old Thierry Henry looking for the far post and kind of doesn't connect with it, and it sort of goes right down the middle. But it's encouraging signs from Havertz there, getting a bit of space. That's when Chelsea are going to look most threatening, when Palace are actually having an attack, right?
I fancy, speaking longer term, I fancy Havertz or Ziyech possibly over Werner.
Yeah.
Partly because at the moment we've got a load of striker options. Personally, myself, what I'm maybe looking to do with the 2 transfers I've got is bring in Ryan Brewster, and that gives me a solid, not for Timo Werner necessarily, maybe for Che Adams, but that gives me a solid 1 million, 2 million, or what have you, to look at the rest of the squad. I think that's a very, very tempting thing to do, especially with all the money we've got in midfield at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we were saying, I've experimented with forcing myself into a few strategies in the past. So I think it was 2 years ago, I took no hits deliberately all season. and that was my best finish until last year. But then that doesn't mean that's the right approach. It's the approach that suited the scenarios for that season. You know, I didn't have 3 players injured all at once or something like that. This season, I started with a plan, which was I had no City or United, like, ball into the box. That's just over from Jorginho. It was a free kick in, headed out, and Jorginho just put it over the bar. I'm not sure who took that free kick.
I'm just about to see the free kick come in. Hudson-Odoi and Chilwell are on it, so Chilwell whips it in.
Ah.
And yeah, it's a header won by Thiago Silva. Jorginho with a decent effort, but yeah, hooked it over.
What do you reckon? When Ziyech comes in, do you think he takes all of them, or do you think Chilwell shares? Because that could be quite a big thing with him getting so far forward and maybe on a few set pieces.
Yeah, there was. So the one pre-season game we saw against Brighton was Ziyech on free kicks, but obviously Chilwell wasn't in the team there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe Chilwell from the left. I'm trying to think Chilwell at Leicester. I mean, Maddison would have always been on the vast majority of free kicks at Leicester, but I'm wondering if
Chilwell took a few. I guess the left-footed, right-footed thing would help as well, so they could share them. Ziyech and Chilwell obviously both being left-footed, potentially means they're sharing a bit of that space.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that because I do think Mason Mount and Reece James, when on the pitch, will be involved with those set pieces. James takes a really good corner. Mount, in terms of free kicks that we're shooting from, we saw the final day against Wolves last season, direct free kick, 25 yards out. Mount stuck it in. So yeah, they've got really good options from set pieces. I think Ziyech might be kind of on the majority of them as the kind of new big money signing, but I guess you could say Chilwell is more expensive and equally, also seen as new and big money. But yeah,
were Chelsea fans not bemoaning Reece James's corners last week?
They were, and Chelsea fans were just moaning last week in general. So you concede 3 to West Brom and they'll jump on anything. I thought Reece James's corners were all right. The problem with Chelsea last week was, and it is going to be a problem moving forward, is we're not going to be the most physical team. We're not going to win many headers. We had Tomori playing centre back, who's 6 foot-ish. Thiago Silva's got a good leap on him, actually, not the tallest, but Thiago Silva will add something to the opponent's box, and Zuma's can win some headers. But other than the centre backs, whoever is playing, there's not really any big ball winners in there. Havertz is 6'2", but doesn't look to be one that's going to win set piece headers. Open headers late.
I think that's fair.
Box,
yeah, I think that's fair.
And then Giroud comes on, and you have an aerial presence. But even Tammy, Tammy's not a great aerial presence either. Quite lightweight, and certainly at corners, he's not going to win too many headers. So that is going to be one area Chelsea probably don't score too many goals from, is aerial headers from set pieces. If Giroud's not on the pitch, that is, because Giroud is obviously first class at winning headers.
And I think set pieces are an opportunity to. It's where a manager can have a lot of influence. And I think we saw last season that defensively, maybe Lampard or his coaches, we don't know who's looking after that on the training ground, maybe didn't invest the time or couldn't find the solution to your defensive set pieces, which suggests there isn't necessarily a plan at offensive set pieces other than put a ball into the box, right? So maybe it's not a thing they're working on.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of set pieces, Michael Sweden asks, will Werner take penalties? That is a really interesting one. So we saw the shootout in the week. Frank asked Werner if he wanted a pen. Werner had cramp and said, no, I don't want a pen. We then saw Mount take the 5th and hit the post. He has taken them a lot in the past and got a really good penalty record. We know Jorginho is first choice penalty taker at Chelsea, but now he has missed this season in the Premier League. I wonder if Jorginho would still be on a penalty if Chelsea won a penalty in this game, for example. If he isn't, I wouldn't be surprised to see Werner stepping up. At the same time, there's players in that team that have taken them in penalty shootouts for Chelsea, and I haven't looked at Azpilicueta's penalty success rate, but I've seen him take a lot of penalties in shootouts, and I don't think I've ever seen someone like Azpi miss. So there's options, but I think it will be Jorginho or Werner, and I think...
There was a time when Azpi was taking them when Hazard wasn't there? I think was it a few years ago he used to possibly second choice?
I think he got 1 or 2, yeah. And I've seen him, his conversion rate in shootouts has always been first class. He usually puts in top bins. So yeah,
I'd almost like a penalty today to try and
it'd be nice,
settle that issue. Even whoever takes it, I kind of want that information.
You'd think Jorginho still gets it. He's obviously missed one, but I think his success rate in his career is up around 90%. Jorginho's got great numbers. I think he's had about 35 penalties and scored, sort of 29 or similar sort of number to that. So I think it will be Jorginho. So don't bank on Werner, guys. And obviously, there's a lot of talk in the community about filling our team with penalty takers. We know about the handball rule and the rules are being slightly relaxed as of this weekend. So anything that's below if an arm is out, so if an arm's up there, ball hits it. I think Eric Dyer last week, penalty straight away, still be a penalty. If your arm is out but it's down there, i.e. Joel Ward last week, that then will go to pitchside monitor and the referee can say.
Tammy Abraham getting on a Chilwell corner but putting it just wide and over. Exactly like you were saying. I think it's not a free header, but he's possibly not set himself up as well for it as you'd like.
Good corner so Chilwell taking corners on both sides today.
Yep. Yeah, you could see maybe him sharing that with Ziyech, a side each. Again, they're both left-footed, so it might depend on the delivery they're able to put in. But as you've said, I think all Chilwell's corners have hit the mark. It's more been the people in the box, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, good standard.
Yeah. On penalties,
yeah.
I feel like it certainly is a thing we want to consider, but I wouldn't myself, maybe I'm being slow to the party, pick someone purely on it. It feels like a bonus. If I'm picking between two players, it's something that'll swing me in one direction. But I won't deliberately pick someone just for penalties. Even if there are definitely more penalties this season, just the unpredictable nature of them, I feel like you can't. Unlike saying, I think Mo Salah's going to score in this game. Of course, penalties are a part of that. But what you can't say is, I think he's going to get a penalty in this game.
Yeah.
So if you take it in isolation, it feels something that's very difficult to predict. So why am I trying to predict it?
Yeah, really interesting outlook there. I'm the same. If I'm completely 50-50 on two players and one happens to be on pens, then it's an easier decision to make. But yeah, do I let that influence my thinking too much? No, I really don't. And there's a few teams we don't know who will be on penalties. We saw last week Everton. We saw Richarlison is on penalties, so that's good to know. And as the season goes on, we will start to understand absolutely every team who is their penalty taker, because things do change. So, for example, Crystal Palace, their penalty taker historically is Milivojevic, who is out of the team at the moment. So it's great to know that Zaha is on pens when starting and when Milivojevic isn't on the pitch. But should Milivojevic come back in, then there's a good chance Zaha won't be on them. He's a very good penalty taker and set piece specialist. So good to know.
I mean, he didn't take the first one the other week, did he? He took the retake.
Ah, okay, of course. Yeah.
So I wonder if that was maybe because who won it?
I can't remember. I'd seen the highlights, but I didn't watch that game.
So it might have been a case of, without our first choice taker, you win a penalty, you take a penalty.
Yeah.
Because he then missed, Zaha was able to step up. But I wouldn't be entirely confident that Zaha is for. I mean, without Milivojevic, we'd think yes, but he wasn't immediately first choice last time.
Yeah. And so there's teams like Everton, for example. We know Sigurdsson's the penalty taker, isn't in the starting 11, probably not going to be in the starting 11 a huge amount, although could be this game week because of injuries. But good to know Richarlison is on pens. So we're kind of seeing more as the weeks go by. Chance for Palace, they won header from the corner, but comfortably cleared. Werner on the breakaway looks like he's not going to quite get there. Kouyaté wins the race. So 27 minutes in, Chelsea 0, Palace 0. We've not seen a huge amount of goal mouth action. The biggest chance actually fell to Werner from a Havertz 40-yard run. Carried it really well, put in Werner on the angle, probably sort of 15 yards out. Werner fires straight at the keeper. It was Ayew that missed the penalty.
74. I'm sorry. Oh, Ayew, thank you very much.
Good guys in the chat, Matthew Sura, thank you.
74% to possession to Chelsea. They've had 5 shots, 1 on target, 4 of those inside the box. But then depends where those are inside the box. If they're right in the corner, if Palace are maybe a bit like Burnley sometimes, you allow those low percentage shots to block out the middle, don't you?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say anything so far. That Timo Werner one was okay, but you could see how he was shaping up. He had one option, which was to go far post, and he just couldn't quite wrap it. I think other than that, I wouldn't say there's anything that you'd say that's got to be a goal.
No, it's been there's not been a huge amount of action. What is positive for Chelsea is the back four looks fairly settled. Palace haven't given them much to think about, but it looks fairly solid. The 4-2-3-1 system looks pretty good. Kante, Jorginho kind of both fairly deep and central. There's width from Hudson-Odoi, there's width from Chilwell. Havertz is trying to get between the lines, but Palace, as we knew they would be, are very solid. It's the 4-4-2, but the two forwards are both helping out as well, which means it's a bit of a 4-6 at times. Palace will just keep it tight, won't they, Seb? They're not going to take too many chances. They're never going to overcommit. Their fullbacks won't be high. It's going to be very tricky to break them down, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They are putting absolutely no pressure on Chelsea's centre backs or even Jorginho, which very much feels like you can have the ball and you can play crossfield balls. You can try and get in behind us. That's not a problem. As soon as you then get within the final third, they're putting the pressure on them. But even here, I'm on just before 30 minutes, 29:55. Chelsea are playing around on the halfway line with almost no pressure. But if you then look 10 yards further forward, that's where Palace are set up, and they're just not letting Chelsea come through them. I feel like Chelsea are maybe missing that. Maybe it is Hakim Ziyech, missing that person who will take the ball in that final third and do something, as opposed to it coming from deep. We've got Havertz, who either wants to carry the ball or wants to be on the end of it. We've got Abraham, who's looking to operate as a bit of a focal point up front, but hasn't been very involved. Timo Werner, while he can create, obviously wants to come onto stuff, and Hudson-Odoi, wide right, wants to do his thing over there. I wonder if maybe they're missing that someone who can actually orchestrate that higher up the pitch.
Yeah, I would actually, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'd love to see Giroud instead of Tammy, and I'd love to see Mason Mount perhaps instead of either Kante or Jorginho, and just have. I don't think this game needs two deep lying midfielders, and Kante and Jorginho. Whilst Kante has become a bit more of a runner, a bit more box to box. Seems wrong to say you don't need Kante in this sort of game, but there's not a lot to break up in the middle. You still want the passer in Jorginho. Someone like Mason Mount with his late runs into the box, not being tracked, could be a threat. And Giroud, a much better focal point than Tammy, in my opinion, will pin the centre backs and then runs off him Havertz, runs off him Werner. But
Hudson-Odoi has moved to the left, it would seem, with Timo Werner on the right now.
They did that a little bit against West Brom. That's interesting. I mean, Hudson-Odoi, I feel like probably prefers playing on the left. He's a right.
I'd think so. He's where he scored his goal from the other week, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's a right-footed player. And when I've seen him do really well in the kind of Chelsea youth teams and stuff, it's often been from the left, cutting in. And we know Werner, often does drift left himself. Chilwell getting forward, just a little bit overhit by Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi is an interesting one, Seb. Obviously, he's in the starting 11 today, and when Chelsea have got all their big names firing and Ziyech is back, he'll probably be a squad man. But should he start performing, we know he's got bags of ability because we hear what all the coaches that have ever trained him say. England under-21 coaches, Chelsea coaches, the fact Bayern Munich offered 40 million for him before he had been capped by England and only played a handful of games for Chelsea. Do we think this guy has got a long-term future at Chelsea, or will he eventually have to move out, maybe on loan, to go be a regular starter at a decent club?
Just had Timo Werner go down in the box. I don't think anything's going to be given, though. There was a ball played through to Tammy Abraham and Werner, who were next to each other. Werner coming in from the right. I'm not sure who played it. It looked like it came from the left, so it could be...
Kante played the ball.
Was it Kante? Nice.
Yeah, and
that classic number 10 role, Kante.
Yeah, he's become more of a midfield runner, isn't he? When he's in with Jorginho, it looks like Mitchell perhaps got there first.
Yeah, no, there's certainly nothing given there. They've moved on. Fair enough. Although encouraging seeing Werner get into the box there. I'm very much looking for confirmation bias here, though. I think realistically, Timo Werner has not been as involved as I would like, and I'm picking up on every little thing, going, "Oh, maybe that's the one. Maybe that's the one."
Yeah, it's hard watching, isn't it, as Werner owners? And obviously, I said it last week. I said I was giving him one more week against West Brom. He hit the bar, I blanked, and now I'm like, I'll give him one more week against Palace. And now if he blanks today, as we said, he probably has one of the best fixtures on paper next week for Timo Werner because of the way Southampton play. I can see myself being like one more week, but you've got to draw the line somewhere.
For me at least, it's looking at the rest of my squad.
Hudson-Odoi in over the top, but yeah, it looks like not much in that. He kind of bit of a very half-hearted penalty appeal there for Hudson-Odoi. I don't know if you saw it, Seb.
I did. That seems to be what Chelsea are finding, right? Those balls around the flank, down the side.
Yeah.
Looking for that little bit of space. I've not seen What maybe other than that Havertz one, just not much come through that middle, which is exactly what Palace are going to be looking to prevent.
Yeah, Palace are very happy keeping their men in the centre and letting Chelsea have it in those wide, not so dangerous areas. Palace getting into the box, good tackle by Zuma. Risky tackle there, he lunges in, get that wrong and it's a pen. But Zuma looked.
Do you reckon Zuma over Christensen then? I know you were saying you think this is your Chelsea's defensive partnership. Christensen's been pretty ever present for a while, hasn't he?
Frank likes Christensen. He's a good passer. I think Zuma, because he's more dominant in the air, because because Chelsea have struggled defending set pieces, they've struggled defending crosses. Zuma is probably our number one ball winning centre back, and Thiago Silva is also a very good ball winning centre back. Despite not being the tallest, he's good in the air. But I think Zuma, for that reason, over Christensen, more physical, and he's playing left-sided centre back today with Thiago Silva right-sided centre back. I think that will be the number one pairing.
Timo Werner's Hudson-Odoi just tried one from the edge of the area, but it got blocked immediately. Timo Werner again is taking up that central position, but he's not getting any touches of the ball there. So I'm torn between, that's where I want to see him, coming in through that middle. But if he's not touching the ball there, it's arguably not ideal for Chelsea's system and certainly not ideal for him.
Yeah, if he's not touching the ball there as well, he's very deep, right? So he's coming really short to try and get on the ball, and then you're thinking, okay, if it's played forward, the number 9 striker Timo Werner or the number 11 striker Timo Werner isn't anywhere near the box, and you just want him in there, don't you? It's a hard one.
This is such a good example of making your decisions based on outcome, or I don't know what you'd call it, the information you have beforehand. Right now, watching this, Timo Werner doesn't look like a 9.4 million pound FPL striker. If he gets 2 shots, 2 on target, one deflects in over a goalkeeper, whatever, and scores 2 goals, does that change your mind? It probably shouldn't. Yeah. Because even though he scored you 2 goals, that wasn't borne out in the stats and what led up to it. Oh, corner in again, another very good corner. It's just been, I think, punched away, and that's probably Chelsea going backwards. That's the chance over. There's something. If it wasn't Crystal Palace, there might be something in those corners. But yeah, I feel like almost no matter what Timo Werner does today in terms of points, it's the actual performance I want to see to give me confidence that there are more points to come in the future. Otherwise, I think so. Try and half answer that question I had from earlier as well. I spent 8 points a couple of weeks ago because I set my team up. No Man United, no Man City, as most people. So I had that. I started with Jamie Vardy, got very lucky with those 2 penalties. But Jamie Vardy was a placeholder for Martial. I wanted Martial. I set my team up to have De Bruyne and Martial, and then went, okay, who can replace them for a week or 2? So Vardy replaced Martial, so that was my first transfer. And then I did the Alba to KDB like pretty much everyone else. So then by the time I kind of had a few options, maybe Vardy looked amazing and I could keep him and not spend that transfer. I would do the planned transfers and do Vardy to Martial and Alba to KDB. Or maybe it didn't go to plan and I start looking at restructuring more of the team. Well, it was option 3. So in the week that I did Alba to KDB, so ahead of game week 3, I also did St. Maximin, who was injured. So that seemed fair enough, to James Rodriguez. And then to facilitate that, I did Martial down to Jimenez, which, as we all know, actually ended up Jimenez got 0 and Martial got 2. But going forward, and based on what I've seen so far, I'm more confident in Jimenez than Martial. And I was happy to. I came out of those transfers worse off. I shouldn't have made them if we're just looking at points in that week. But now I have 2. Oh, Abraham's in the box. Just shepherded out for a corner. He was just struggling to get around the defenders. Guaita came out and just about blocked it. I didn't see who played that over. You might be able to see it.
So Jorginho with a ball from the halfway line floated in towards Tammy. Brings it down really well, but it's sort of shepherded out by a combination of Guaita and I think Kouyate, who's doing really well at centre-back, Kouyate.
He really is.
He really is. For the last few games. But Jorginho, really good ball there. It's sort of a bit of a Pirlo pass. And Jorginho is getting a huge amount of space in and around the halfway line because Palace are very happy with Chelsea having the ball deep. But if Jorginho can keep his passes up like that, then, I kind of want to see Tammy off the shoulder, but also want to see Werner up there if Jorginho is going to be firing balls over.
That's why I'd want to see Werner. I mean, I think Tammy Abraham's decent. I think he's gone on a few very fine runs of form, but I don't know. He maybe lacks that. How many chances does it often take him to score a goal?
Can't hit a barn door, mate. He can't hit a barn door. I can't. I love Tammy, and I think he's a brilliant young English forward. And as a Chelsea fan, I like him in the squad.
Havertz tried to play Werner through there, but just got cut off. Although that's exactly where you want to see Timo Werner.
Yeah, I'm just watching it now. So Kante's got the ball in the middle, and again, space, gives it to Havertz, space, threads the ball through. But yeah, it's Koyate, and it's Koyate again, I think, who might be down, but intercepts the pass. But yeah, Daniel says in the chat, hoping to see Werner move to number 9. If we see Pulisic come on, will we see that? Yeah, I think you're right, Daniel. We might see that. A lot of people asking about Reece James. We've spoken about this earlier. Look, he's played a lot of games this season so far. Azpilicueta coming in to probably mark a very skillful Eze, to mark a very skillful and fast Zaha, who will drift left. So probably tactical, but Reece James moving forward, I think will still be the number 1 right back. But don't be surprised if we get some rotation. The safer picks will be Chilwell. Loads of you in the chat, and thank you all for watching, and stay with us. We're going to be at half time talking about our teams and about some of the other fixtures today, including Man City Leeds. Seb is a Leeds fan, so I look forward to discussing that one. I've got Triple City, so it's a massive game for me. But yeah, Chelsea starting to maybe create a few half chances, playing between the lines a little bit better, threading through balls through a little bit better. But still no massive chances for either team in this game. I don't think Mendy has had the ball in hand yet. I think he may have had a few goal kicks, but I don't think he's done very little, Edouard Mendy, in the Chelsea goal.
Palace have had one shot and it was blocked, so he's watched, basically.
He has watched, yeah. I'm just fascinated always by Havertz's positioning, and we're speaking loads today about positioning, and it's so intriguing because we don't know how Chelsea are going to set up, and we don't necessarily know too much about some of their new players. You know, Werner and Havertz are players we've not watched for the last 5 years. I certainly haven't. And Havertz could become FPL gold. Seeing him in the number 10 role, knowing his price point, knowing he has got a great eye for goal, and it's not been the best start to the season for Havertz, and so many FPL managers that were excited about him have already sold. But when Chelsea do start firing, I'm with you, Seb. I think Havertz and Ziyech could be, and of course Pulisic, we can't forget, 8.3 million Pulisic. Last season he was averaging a goal involvement, so a goal or an assist every 101 minutes of football. That's phenomenal for an 8.3 million midfielder, if he can keep that up. Good ball in from Andros Townsend. And I think it's Sacco that wins the header. But yeah, it goes out.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Yeah, Pulisic is an interesting one. For whatever reason, last season, I had him towards the end when both he and Willian got a few points in the restart. But for most of the season, I hadn't really looked at him. I think his stats don't always bear out the points. They're not poor by any means.
Yeah.
And of course, that can suggest a very good player. You know, if he's got a low XG but high goals and he keeps that over time, he's either lucky or good at football. But he's always been one that I've looked at and maybe preferred another option just based on repeatable results going forward. So for me, Pulisic coming into the side is almost more, what does it do for the rest of Chelsea's players, as opposed to him himself.
Tammy being shepherded out by Koyate, again not strong enough, again not good enough with his first touch. Ball over the top, difficult one to control, but I was mentioning Tabby said before we had a bit of action 5 minutes ago. I think he's a very good player. I'm really delighted he's in the Chelsea squad. Is he going to be a starter that's going to get us trophies? Is he going to be a starter of a team that gets regular top 4 football? I'm not quite sure. I think Tammy Abraham will be a Southampton or an Everton, West Ham. I don't know. I think he'll be a very good player in the right team, and we saw him do really well with Villa in the Championship, and he did well at times for Chelsea last year. But is he going to be a starting 9 for a top Champions League team? I don't think he will be. What are your thoughts, Seb?
I think that's absolutely fair enough. I think you could have him as the backup striker, as the one that plays in cups, comes off the bench. Your Divock Origi, if you like, and he absolutely does have goals in him, and there will probably be some matches that really, really suit him. But I think if Chelsea's aim is to win a title and win several, which clearly is the aim for every club, but the way Chelsea have spent and the players they've brought in, you'd think in the next 3 to 5 years they're hoping to bring in 2, if not more, Premier League titles. I don't know if he's the one. I'd almost rather Giroud, and I'm not saying maybe Tammy would score more goals, but I think Giroud would contribute more to the team. And also, Giroud does have goals in him. His goal record when he plays is very, very impressive.
Giroud makes other players better too. So you look at Eden Hazard at Chelsea. Who did he absolutely love playing off at the end of his Chelsea reign? Giroud. We saw Hazard excel under Conte in that season we won the league off Giroud. We saw Giroud, look at him for France. Look how good Griezmann is off him. He just makes other players better, and he does a lot of that donkey work. And I feel like with Tammy, he's at the age now where he needs to be getting games and needs to be getting minutes. And for England, he will get in that England squad and go to the Euros. And I want to see him scoring goals week in, week out for a Southampton or a West Ham. And I just don't know if he should be the backup. A backup Giroud is perfect. He gives us a different game.
I think you were talking there about him like needing game time at his age. While he is still young, he has had a lot of football under his belt. He's played several championship seasons. He played, obviously not all the minutes, but he has played a full Premier League season before Chelsea, and then one for Chelsea. I wonder if it's one of those where it's almost minutes over age here, because really we're looking for exposure at the top level and him learning how to play that and how to work in those conditions. I think there's certainly improvements to be made, but I wonder if we're seeing closer to the finished article than his age would suggest.
Yeah, you're right. And we forget that time he had at Swansea in the Premier League, the time he spent at Villa. He has played a lot for Chelsea still in the Premier League. We saw that 1 minute added time, by the way, at the end of the first half. I think you're probably right there, Seb. Havertz slips on the edge of the area, and it is pouring with rain, by the way, in London. Yeah, Tammy's going to be an interesting story. I think he'll still get a lot of minutes this season because of the amount of games. And Frank sees Giroud as a different style of sort of plan B game, but Tammy is above him in the pecking order, as we've seen today. But moving forward, I do hope we see Werner in the 9, and I hope we see Werner become a number 9, an out-and-out 9, where he can play with... The camera's on Mount... as the half-time whistle, I think, is about to go, and I guess
half-time just gone here. Yeah,
half-time just gone. I guess Mount will probably be the first sub that comes on to try and bring something a little different. Probably not till the 55th, 60th minute, but I think Mount and Pulisic will both be primed for an impact in this game. What do you reckon, Seb?
What would you do at half-time here? I feel there needs to be something different in that central area where Chelsea aren't getting the chances you want, whether that's Mount, whether it's moving around other players. I'd be tempted to do Tammy to Giroud personally.
Yeah, that'd be my move. And it'd be in half time. But I don't think it'll be Frank's move, and I don't think it'll be in half time. But
that's fair. I think
loads of you are joining us, guys.
I'd have Mount.
You'd say again.
I think I'd save Mount for the second half personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm with you.
I wouldn't be surprised if Pulisic comes on for Hudson-Odoi, and then we see Pulisic on the left, potentially Werner on the right, or then Mount could come on to the right, and then we see Werner down the middle. But he might see the physical centre-backs of Palace and go, do we want Giroud there? Will he even be winning headers against Kouyate? Or do we want the quick, nippy Pulisic, Werner types up there trying to get in behind? The problem is Palace are so deep and there isn't that space.
What do you see as Mount's position?
Oh, that's a really good question. So Mason Mount, if you watch this stream regularly, you'll know is my absolute boy. He was in my FPL team come game week 1. I wildcarded in game week 3 and took him out for his 12-point return last week. But he will play. One thing I'd say about Mount is more often than not, he will be starting games, and Frank will shoehorn him into this team. Whether it's on the left or the right of a 3, whether he's in the number 10, or whether he goes 4-3-3 and Mount is one of the midfield 3. I genuinely don't know Mount's best position. I think if you asked Mason Mount, he'd probably say a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1, but we know Havertz will play there more often than not. I also think Mount is very dangerous when on the left or when on the right, because he starts to high press. Yes, he's not the most creative, but he's got a real good eye for a goal, and he makes late runs into the box. Guys, loads of you always jump on and come in at half time, so thank you for tuning in. Do stay with us for the second half. Watch the game on mute. I don't know who's on commentary, but it's probably McManaman or Savage. We're way better than that. So stay with us. Look, we're going to be talking about Chelsea and Palace for the next hour, but for the next 10-15 minutes we're going to speak about the fixtures later today, right? So 500 of you are with us. Thank you for joining. Do ask your questions. But later on there's a massive game of football for FPL, I think, and it's massive for me, Seb, because I've got Triple City. So for those that aren't massively on City at the moment, that's a great game to watch and get your eye test scouting in, because if City run riot and score lots of goals, as I hope they do, we might be looking to bring more City players in. Many of us have got KDB, but I think Sterling, who, by the way, guys, is like 6% owned, playing as the number 9 today. Yes, it doesn't always suit him, but he did really well in the week against Burnley, scored 2 goals. What are our thoughts on City Leeds, Seb? Will it be goals galore? Oh, by the way, Seb, should also add, you are the researcher for Leeds for Football Manager, and you're a Leeds fan, so you know your stuff when it comes to talking tactics and talking Leeds.
I am so horribly torn, and there are so many emotions. Just from a football point of view, it's probably the best game this weekend, right?
Yeah.
If you had to put money on any game not ending goalless, it's this one. So I'm looking forward to a 0-0. From a Leeds point of view, scared's not the right word, but we've played Liverpool, and that was maybe slightly a free hit because it was the first game of the season. It was okay, let's just see what we're about, and it ended okay. We got suitably taken apart in places, as Liverpool will do to everyone. But I think we put up an okay fight, and we scored some very nice goals. Took some chances we probably won't always take. This one, while City are of a similar quality, and there's probably a similar result, I think City win this clear. I think we'll score. Because of last week, I feel like there's more of an opportunity, even if this isn't actually borne out in the real football, to maybe try and take advantage of City here. But we don't have the same weapons that Leicester do, and of course City are going to be looking to make up for that. So maybe we'll end up being the brunt of that. But I think Leeds concede. I think we score. I'd give you a 4-2 to Man City.
I'd absolutely love a 4-2 with a Sterling hat-trick. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? KDB few assists, Foden maybe getting in on the action. They're my 3-man City. And I'm really excited for the game because I think it'll be open. And also, I want to see Bielsa versus Pep. Sometimes we forget and we just think FPL. But in terms of enjoying a game of football and the way Leeds play the ball and the way they're going to have a go, it's going to be a brilliant football match at 5:30 today. And we've also got...
One thing we know for sure is that Bielsa won't change how he's going to approach that match. It'll be the 4-1-4-1 because City will only play at 1 up front, so we won't go to the 3 at the back. And we will be looking to press, win the ball, and score goals. And it's just a case of, like we mentioned earlier, the man marking. It's a case of, can Raheem Sterling, can Phil Foden, can Kevin De Bruyne get around the people we put on them? And you'd think they probably can. But if we're able to get in their face and disrupt it, I'd fancy us to cause some trouble.
It was interesting to see Sheffield United get quite a few chances against Leeds last week. And remember, Sheffield United are a team that don't create much. And if it wasn't for the Leeds keeper, Lundstrom would have scored. There would have been a few goals. So I'm expecting KDB to get in some of those Lundstrom positions and take real advantage of that. Those of you in the chat are putting comments and questions in. Thank you for that. In terms of captaincy, Tajwa, you are captaining Dominic Calvert-Lewin this week. They, of course, Everton play Brighton at 3. Now, this week for captaincy we're spoiled for choice, right? So it's great to see you've gone for a DCL punt, but I'm surprised at that because Liverpool, of course, have got Aston Villa, so there's a lot of Salah captainers. Aubameyang as Sheffield United. City, we've just spoken about. And then you've also got Jimenez and Danny Ings with 2 brilliant fixtures. Jimenez against Fulham, Danny Ings against West Brom. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a man in form. So if you go in form over fixture, that's, why not? It's triple 3 goals for Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the week. I'm really excited about Everton and Ancelotti's Everton, and Calvert-Lewin looks to be a real poacher. Are you excited by him, Seb? And who's your captain?
My captain is De Bruyne. Simply because if I take my Leeds head out of the equation, I think he's the best option on paper. You mentioned, I think that's a really insightful point about him appearing in that Lundstrom position. I think he has the best potential for points this weekend. My vice is on Salah, simply again because we know he returns points. He's playing Villa. It's a relatively safe vice captain option. If De Bruyne doesn't turn up, I don't want to be punting with my next option. I was tempted by Jimenez though. Fulham, we know we're going to let chances in. Wolves, okay. They looked not great last week and they lost quite heavily to West Ham. Is that indicative of what's going forward in the season, or is that a blip? I'd back that to be a blip. And as we know, Jimenez is on penalties and they're going to have chances going forward against Fulham. As you said yourself, there's so many other options. You could look at Danny Ings. If I was going to take out Timo Werner, I probably would have done him to Danny Ings.
Me too.
That might still be the case. Yeah. I've got Che Adams, so there's a little bit of hope there. Maybe he'll hit all three posts this time or something. Everton's an interesting one. I get the DCL shout in terms of if you captained him every week so far, you'd be looking pretty. But they're without Alan this week. They're possibly without Richarlison. We know Brighton aren't the team. When you look at your FPL page and you see a little H in brackets, which is always attractive in the fixtures, and you see like a Burnley or a Brighton or a West Ham or dare I say a Leeds, you think, okay, that's a good fixture. I think Brighton are starting to creep above that level now. If you saw an Everton, you wouldn't think it's a good fixture. I don't know how many chances will be there for Everton today if they are missing a couple of the players that have made them the team they are. But going forward over the season, they're extremely exciting. I think those signings in the middle, the Doucouré, James, or he's out on the right, and Allen are Football Manager territory.
Yeah.
Those are the signings you make in FM and go, I have a Champions League midfield. The fact that it's happened and is working in real life as well is great. It's really good to see it. I think people who went DCL early on in the season as well were smart. They looked at that midfield and went, this is the man who's going to be on the end of all those things those players create. I've got James myself now purely because I think the numbers he puts up over the long term, I want to just hold him in that slot and go, any 1 week, I don't know what he'll do. But over the long term, I'd back him to return me points. And for a price that is arguably 1.5 million too cheap, if he actually returns on those numbers.
Yeah, he could start delivering like a premium James. I mean, let's not forget Ancelotti. He's his boy. He had him at Real Madrid. His only good season at Real Madrid consistently was under Ancelotti. He then took him to Bayern Munich. Ancelotti, this is. He then, when he went to Napoli, was desperate to buy James, and he's now got him at Everton. My only concern with James, and I think we saw it last week, the assist of the assist is something we're sometimes frustrated by if you're a KDB owner, for example. Now, KDB last season, that didn't happen too much, and he got loads of assists. But in the past with KDB, we've seen assist of the assist, and you go, no, you're the best player on the pitch, but you're not getting the FPL points. And my only concern with James is we're often going to see assist of the assist. James ball to Coleman or to Dina, whips it in, DCL finishes. But at the same time, we will also see a lot of assists. So James is one I've got my eye on, but Calvert-Lewin is the safer bet if you're going with only one Everton attacking player, I think. And
I think the assisting the assister is a funny one, because if you're looking at someone who's sitting deeper, that's fair enough, because within the system, that is their role.
Yeah.
But James' system is
Jorginho.
to progress the ball.
Yeah.
Exactly. But James' role is to progress the ball, create chances, whether that be second assist or full proper assist himself. If he wasn't also creating chances, sure, it's valid. But did he not create, was it 10 chances last week or something? There was a stat going around.
Yeah.
So if he's also laying on 5 second assists or pre-assists, whatever you want to call them, I don't really have a problem with that. It only takes one of those. What was that? What's that famous? Was it the famous assist from Xavi where Messi runs half the? Oh no, Busquets. Sorry, Busquets lays it off to Messi, and he walks through the entire Real Madrid team. Well, any other week, that's not even a second assist. That's just a layoff in the midfield.
Yeah.
For all we know, James does that to Richarlison, and he scores a wonder goal.
Yeah.
If he's putting up the numbers, I'm happy. And second assists almost feel like adding to that as opposed to taking away from it for me.
Yeah. Bibbo says, mad disrespect for Richarlison here. Yeah, you're right, mate. Richarlison, we cannot forget. He's 8 million, though, which is why we've discarded Richarlison. Saying that, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is jumping in price so much that he's only 0.5 cheaper now. So
if you didn't have either, would you be tempted?
Yeah, I would. Knowing Richarlison is on penalties now as well, you look at Richarlison and go, okay, yes, it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin that's had all the goals, but when you look at shots in the box and chances from the first couple of game weeks, Richarlison had more attempts and touches in the box than Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So one to watch. But what I would say about Everton is, let's not get too excited and start talking about tripling up. I think it's a little bit too early.
Montelandi.
Yeah, I mean, they have got Brighton this week at 3 o'clock, and we'll have team news in half an hour. But I do think that's a tricky fixture. And then they've got Liverpool. So, let's not get too excited. But those of you in the chat are asking questions. Nicholas, Guaita or PVA looks like a good pick in this Palace side. Look, PVA could be back after the international break. Guaita's a good pair of hands at the back. Also, remember, Gary Cahill will probably come back into the team and is good value and offers a bit of goal threat as well. Garish says also, Brighton's Trossard looks like a steal at 6 million. I said the same thing this morning. I've got my eye on Trossard. My problem with Trossard is I also like the look of Morpie, and I've also got Lamptey, and I don't want double or triple Brighton. But saying that, at 6 million, he's really attacking. Remember, this is a guy that gets in the Belgium squad. Like, he is a class act, and he's now getting in the team and getting minutes. Last season, he was a rotation risk. He was getting hooked a lot. AC22, Dallas is a winger playing left back, very attacking. Yeah, you're right, but he is still playing fullback. Seb, you're our resident Leeds expert. Dallas or Ayling, both fullbacks. Yes, Dallas can play in midfield, but he's going to be a fullback this season, right? Who'd you go for if you're only picking one of those players? 4.5, both of them.
I would go Ayling. I have been all season and would stick with that. And, any given week, one of them could get points and the other one couldn't. I think Ayling has better underlying BPS. He's also more nailed. We're not going to sign a left back now. I don't think that's going to happen. But if we do shift things around, it's looked like our weakest point has been down our left side in the members area on the Scout website. You look at where we've conceded our chances; it's that right hand side.
Yeah.
Of course, that was versus Mo Salah, so we'll see if that stays for the season. But at the moment, on the available information, that's the weak area. So if someone were to get replaced, we do have Douglas, we do have Alioski. It could be Dallas. I think a lot of people are being fooled by the fact that Dallas is traditionally a midfielder.
Yeah. If he's not going to play there, that's irrelevant.
Exactly. And he absolutely could do some time there with injuries. But, injuries change everything. If Timo Werner gets injured today, we take that player out. So I think you can't really account for that. Last week, Dallas did actually start in centre midfield, but that was because we went to our 3 at the back shape. Ayling got forward. He was actually at centre back for that, and he still managed to get forward from that position. Yeah. We only play 3 at the back. We'll switch to it in game sometime with either Ayling tucking in or Phillips dropping back. But we only play it against 2 strikers. Sheffield United play 2 up front. Man City, for example, today, I expect to play 1 up front with obviously 2 wider. That means we'll go to 4 at the back, which means Dallas will be left back. All of Dallas's returns last year came from him either playing right back when Ayling was injured at the beginning of the season, or playing higher up the pitch in midfield, which was moving there in games or starting over injuries. When he plays at left back, his returns just aren't what they look to be on paper. If you look at them on paper, he looks equal to Ayling. But all of those points, if we were playing FPL last year in the Championship, would have come from other positions. So while he's left back, Ayling is my man.
Yeah, it's good. Great answer. It's a little bit like the Bulldog versus Stevens debate last year at Sheffield United. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But then I think it was Bulldog was producing the better FPL numbers in terms of points, but then Stevens was getting all the better stats. So actually, Stevens was the better shout, but Bulldog was getting the points. And we might see similar with Dallas and Ayling this year. But eventually, Stevens, when you look at the end of the season, is the points started coming. Javid has asked, did I buy Salah? Good question, Javid. I'm asked that a lot because I don't have any Liverpool in my team. And it's a conscious decision for a few weeks because I'm going Sterling over Salah. Salah, however, will come into my team for game week 6. So it means I am watching from behind that pool table when Salah is playing. And Salah has...
What about the defence?
Again, no Trent or Robbo, but plans for game week 6 for them to come in.
See, that's been the cornerstone of my team. I plan to keep those 2 for as long as I'm able. Started with them. A few points so far. I'd say they're probably, about par for the course, maybe, so far, with some harder fixtures. Is that something you're looking to move to in the coming weeks, is it?
Yeah, it was purely because when you're on wildcard, you just have that chance to go... For a few weeks, there's a few calls I could make that are a little bit rogue, and I can still plan where I'm getting those players back. And for me to be able to go triple City and still have Werner and still have Jimenez, I needed to make cuts somewhere and still have Son. So I went, okay, I could do without Trent and Robbo for the Arsenal game, for Aston Villa, and then for Everton. So 3 tricky fixtures, I think. And no Salah in those games. And then the plan is from game week 6, and I'll have 2 transfers. I'll bring Salah in for Sterling, and I'll upgrade one of my defenders, possibly Reece James, but possibly one of my budgets, like a Mitchell, to a Trent or a Robbo. And I've got the money to do that. And the fixtures turn in game week 6 for Liverpool. It's a really nice run. But you could argue any fixture is good for Liverpool because they're the best team in the league. So, yeah, it wasn't comfortable viewing on Monday night against Arsenal, but the result was fine. Salah didn't go crazy. Loads gave him the armband. Liverpool conceded, which I thought they would, was part of my thinking. Yes, they both got attacking returns, those 2, but, you expect they will always get attacking returns. Guys, loads of you are watching. Stay with us for the second half. We're going to be keeping you up to date with the Chelsea game. We're both watching and, of course, talking wider FPL as well. We'll have Everton team news at 2 o'clock as well. So yeah, no Salah for me, but I couldn't see myself captaining him, and I can see myself captaining Sterling, and that was the thinking behind it.
I
Although
think that's
many,
fair. I think like you said, if you're wildcarding to take advantage of those 3 or 4 fixtures, I think that's reasonable. And then especially if you're able to save up 2 transfers,
yeah,
you can move those to whoever you want afterwards. I
that
think
was the
that's a fair
hope.
shout.
That was the hope, and then it didn't work for me last week because De Bruyne, Sterling, and Foden all blanked and all played against Leicester, and now surely those three cannot blank for the second week on the trot. If it does, then my wild cards, killed me. And I did that thing that you should never do on a wild card, which is, oh, it's actually Genus and Fletcher in commentary. So apologies, they're way better than us, but still listen to us. Savage and McManaman, I'm not so sure, but they're definitely not talking FPL, and we are. But yeah, I can't remember what I was saying there, but.
Talking about your wild card, and if
Oh,
it
that
didn't
was
work
it.
last week, maybe it'll work this week.
I did that thing where you look at your wildcard team, you go, great, I got 26 points, which is what I got last week. And then you go, if I didn't use my wildcard, I would have got, and I was on like 55
Oh,
points.
but that's always a wild card isn't for 1 week, is it?
That's what I keep saying.
That you can't look at it like you get one wild card each season and you get a free hit. If you're comparing it week to week, you should have used your free hit. The wild card is there to set you up for literally until you get your next wild card, basically.
Yeah, thanks, Seb. Do you know what? I keep saying that because I got a lot of stick on Twitter for that, and I'm like, come on, guys, it's not for 1 week, and that 25 points will be made up in the next 20 weeks. I hope.
That's the same logic that means you took Son out after game week 1. If you've made a choice for 1 week, why have you made that choice? You only get 1 transfer each week.
Yeah, exactly that. So 0-0, guys. No substitutions. Palace. Wow.
Havertz coming forward here. Shot blocked on the edge of the area, but a nice fluid start. There were some nice interchanges there. Werner back on the left, Hudson-Odoi on the right. No other changes.
The Palace setup, though, we spoke about it in the first half. Wow, Havertz has done really well there. He's got a great first touch. It's 2 banks of 4 in a 4-4-2, but the 2 forwards, Ayew and Zaha, both drop into the midfield. So it's effectively a 4-6, giving Chelsea centre-backs loads of time and space. And Palace are very happy. This is almost the sort of game where you wish you had David Luiz at centre-back, and I don't say that very often. Giving David Luiz that sort of time and space, he'll occasionally pick out one of those worldies, sort of the Jorginho-style pass we've seen in the first half. Mitchell there getting good tackling.
I want to see them create more from short, though. We were saying in the first half, everything was coming from Palace. You look at it now, I'm on 47-37. Thiago Silva has half of the pitch to himself, almost quite literally. There's no interest in Palace pressing that. You can quite clearly see the 2 lines of 4 there and the 2 up front. They're happy just to leave them. They have no trouble there. And I think, like you said, maybe they lack the David Luiz who's going to find that absolute pass. But on the percentages, I'm happy to even let David Luiz make those passes all day long if I can keep you away from my penalty box. I think what Chelsea need is that person, and maybe Havertz nearly had it there, just 30 yards out as opposed to 80, 100 yards out, trying to create something. That's what Palace are trying to stop, and it's what, if you're Chelsea, you want to see.
Yeah. Thiago Silva looks like he's holding his hip, but I think he just signalled to the bench to be like, look, I'm fine. Carry on, and Thiago Silva is a man that would have played with a lot of knocks over the years, so hopefully he's fine.
Azpilicueta, the centre-back, Reece James on?
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, I actually for that reason, for being a bit of a ball player, Azpilicueta at centre-back in a game like this, I wouldn't have any problems with whatsoever because the centre-backs aren't being challenged a lot. He's a great passer of a football, Azpilicueta, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And we've seen Azpilicueta at centre-back a lot, but mainly pretty much only when we've played a back 3 and the right-sided centre-back role works. But against Palace, you could put him in a back 2 for sure. What time are you on, Seb? Because I've just restarted my BT, so hopefully I'm level with you now. I'm on 48, 50, 51, 52.
49.04.05.
Oh, you're still
15 seconds ahead.
Damn. But that's fine. If there's a goal, I'm sure I'll see your emotions straight away, and you'll be keeping us up to date.
I suspect the chatter ahead of us anyway, right?
I don't know. I think the chat. There's no one in the chat that's told me anything quicker than you have. So
okay.
I think you're pretty up. You're pretty close. Chilwell goal, says Gaddy. Hang on a minute. You might be having us on here. It wouldn't be the first.
Chilwell has just scored a goal.
Come on! Who got the assist?
I actually have no idea. It's coming across the box and there's a few little headers up. There's a chance there'll be no assist on that. Maybe Tammy knocked it on. I don't know who saw it in the chat. Maybe they can fill us in there.
He's hit it clean. Good.
You know what's super frustrating about that? Who's next to Chilwell?
Werner, right next
Yep.
to him. Right next to I think so. Tammy goes up for the header. I don't know if Tammy wins it.
Here we
Who?
go. So
Who?
Hudson-Odoi on the right. Hudson-Odoi puts the ball in, although it's immediately deflected. Oh no, Chiarte with that clearance, I think. As Blaqueta comes in, I can't say if Tammy's headed that across or if it's come off.
Javid
I
reckons
think that's
Abraham
come off
gets his.
Chiarte.
Javid
That's
reckons
definitely
Abraham
come off
gets his
Chiarte.
assist. I mean, the
Definitely come off
ball
Chiarte.
comes in from Azpilicueta, but yeah, he'd never get the assist for that because it's a big. So he's hit it well,
Yeah.
but yeah, Premier League have tweeted the assist none.
There we go. Yeah, that's
So there we
definitely
go.
come off Chiarte, I think.
Well
That
done,
is a
by the
very
way,
nice
guys, to Gaddy Rappaport, who was the first person to tell us, and I should never have doubted you, mate. Come on, the Blues. This is great for Timo Werner owners, by the way, because it might just become a little bit more open. Even
Absolutely.
Palace will feel the need to have a go, probably on the hour mark. I'm hoping.
So what are you thinking about Chilwell then? I mean, we know he can do that. We've seen him arrive in that exact position for Leicester. Even if he's not taking all the set pieces when Ziyech comes in, if they're able to keep some clean sheets, which is the bread and butter for any defender,
Yeah.
5.5 is he? It's tempting.
He's 5.5, and it's a very easy move if you're already a Reece James owner and you want someone that's going to start 95% of the time instead of 85% of the time.
And fixtures over the medium term are decent as well, aren't they? Which is always more of a thing, I think, for defence than strikers.
Yeah.
Southampton next, Man United away, and then Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Tottenham, Leeds, Everton, Wolves, West Ham. That takes you right up to just before Christmas. That's a nice little medium-term run to go. I don't know when Chilwell will get his points, but I back him to get a few over that period.
Yeah, and maybe another goal. And, we've seen him on corners from both sides today. We've seen him on free kicks. So, yeah, I guess for Chelsea defenders, spending 5 on a Chelsea defender and spending 5.5 on a Chelsea defender, one thing we definitely want to see there, perhaps if we're going to go up to the 5.5 level, is more clean sheets. Saying that, now they've got Thiago Silva in there. If he strikes a partnership with Zuma, now we've got Mendy in there. Maybe the clean sheets will come. And when you look at Chelsea last season, there just wasn't many clean sheets that would suggest we should be investing 5.5 in one of their defenders. Saying that, when you look at the amounts of expected goals against us, we weren't that bad. The shots against us, we weren't that bad. Unfortunately, every shot against us was just going in. So now Mendy's in there, and I don't want to give Kepa too much stick, but the numbers weren't that bad for Chelsea defensively last year when you take away a goalkeeper that wasn't saving shots. But then when you just
your XGC was in the top 4 or 5, I think.
it was good going. Yeah, it was really good going. And that's, I think, because we keep so much of the ball, Seb. I mean, teams don't get many chances against
Palace
Chelsea.
corner coming in, easily cleared away by Havertz at the near post.
Sorry, Palace corner coming in and a defensive howler. I was waiting for.
Yeah. What were you saying about that? What do you make of Mendy then? I think he's not Oblak. You've not signed one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but we know you had to do something. Kepa, whether he's good long term or not, he's still a young goalkeeper. It just wasn't working for him, right? I think Chelsea wasn't right for him. He wasn't right for Chelsea. Too many things have gone against him.
I'm really glad that he's been replaced. I don't know if I'm really glad that it's with Mendy, and I don't know enough about Mendy. All I do know is French journalists that I've listened to on a ESPN podcast, Julien Laurent, who watches a lot of the French league, he thinks that Mendy is one of the top 2-3 goalkeepers in the French league. That he was last season. Thought he's very good shot stopper, can make apparently some rash decisions. His decision making can be a little bit off, but at 6'6", he's got 5 inches on Kepa. He'll win. Oof. He'll win a lot. Crosses won't be an issue for him like they were for Kepa. And when Chelsea had been vulnerable to set piece goals and to goals from crosses, I think we needed a tall goalkeeper that's going to command the area. And at 6'6", with the longest arms, he's going to have tremendous reach. And I think that will really help out what has been quite a nervous back line that was made even more nervous with Kepa flapping behind them.
I think that's fair enough. I mean, if you're ever playing at the back.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, so in conclusion, I'm happy enough, but I still want to see more from him till I give my final verdict, but he is still going to be a massive upgrade on Kepa.
I think the confidence point you mentioned there is important. Even if he's a good or worse, better shot stopper, claiming things in the air, if your defenders aren't looking over their shoulder now and wondering, they're just able to get on with their job, know there's a goalkeeper behind them who's able to sweep up or, stop the shots they can't stop. I think that makes a big difference. Anyone who's ever played in defence, if you're ever caught in that should I, shouldn't I, it's already too late, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking, Seb, I'm just thinking back, and I don't want to turn this into the Werner show, so for the next minute or two, I'm just going to bring back Werner as one final thing, until he scores or gets subbed. Game week 5, if Pulisic is fit, which he probably will be, and he plays on the left, what do you think the chances are, if Werner doesn't score today, that he'd be left out for a Tammy or a Giroud?
That's interesting.
I hadn't thought about that. I'm just assuming that Werner is going to be nailed every week. But actually, if Frank does want to go with one of the big men up front, or if he sees Werner as more on the left, and Pulisic is in and comes on today and he's ready for game week 5, the idea of keeping a 9.4 million forward in your squad that isn't scoring is bad enough, but one that's not playing?
I think so. We know how loyal is Lampard to his players. We know Tammy's been from the cup, and he's done the exact same thing for Timo Werner. He played 90 minutes in the cup, scored a goal. I feel like he's someone who is more on the side of, if you're in my team, you're in my team. I'm not ruling it out by any means, but I'm not overly concerned about it. I think the thing that would make me, we've talked about it a bit before, and as you said, maybe don't want to talk about it for the rest of the game, but the thing that would make me lose him is actually if he's looking like dropping several 0.1, 0.2.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with the Southampton game. I've got 2 free transfers. I want to have a look at that over the international break. Ideally, I want to make sure I've got it for any injuries, any big transfers, anything like that. But if everything's as it is now in a couple of weeks' time, I'd be happy keeping Timo Werner. If he looks like he's dropping in price and maybe someone else is going up, a DCL and Ings, maybe I'd consider that. But I quite like, at the moment, while he has got a decent fixture and he's a good player, I quite like having that slot for transfers as much as for a player. Got two free transfers and a player is worth 9.4 million. I can do quite a lot with that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you there. In terms of price rises, Werner did drop, and there is a chance he could drop again next game week if he blanked. In terms of price rises, tonight I think we're going to see an increase. I'm just looking on FPL stats. Lamptey, Dunn, and Justin are the 3 players that are currently due to rise tonight. Lamptey, of course, has already gone up to 4.6, so could be seeing Lamptey at 4.7. Definitely one to get on. I think he had 3 assists in his first 3 games. So advanced. Brighton also look pretty good, so you'll get some clean sheets. And Brighton playing with a back 5. So going back to the Everton chat and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I was really surprised to see someone as captain Calvert-Lewin, although I see the logic in terms of form. But in terms of fixture, playing against 3 centre-backs will be something I don't think he's done this season so far. So that could be pretty tricky for him.
I think it's one of those moves where someone's gone, if no one else is going to do this, and I really back it, I want it to come in big for me, right? It's a little bit of a Hail Mary. It's not a terrible one, you're not captaining Leighton Baines or anything, but yeah, it's not the choice I would make, but I don't think it's unfounded.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. And to be honest,
corner in there, Zuma has just nodded it wide.
Again, that is something Zuma offers. I've not seen it yet, but going back to the centre-back pairings, Zuma over Christensen in terms of attacking balls as well. And it's Chilwell with a brilliant corner. Zuma should score that. He's 7-8 yards out, and yeah, it's not a free. It is a free header. I mean, he's marked, but he's not really being challenged. He's head and shoulders, quite literally. No, it is a free header. And I think it's Sacco that kind of half-hearted attempt to match him, but Zuma gets up really well, heads it down. Gaita, rooted to his spot. That should
if
go
he puts it in, if he puts it in that corner, Gaita's getting nowhere near it. I think what he's gone for there. He's headed it down across the goalkeeper towards that corner, and he's just put it a little bit wide, hasn't he?
I tell you what, those Chilwell corners have been pretty. I mean, I said James's corners weren't bad last week, but these corners have been way better. So
for sure.
So yeah, Chilwell's definitely one to keep an eye on, guys. I need to look at last season to see how often he was on corners at Leicester. I think you're right, he had some, but I still feel like Maddison was on the vast majority of them.
Worth noting as well that Maddison was injured for a large part of the second half of the season. So I think early on, I had Maddison at the beginning of last year. I really enjoy his underlying numbers. He possibly should have scored a few more points, but then maybe that also shows that a lot of his shots come from low percentage opportunities. But he's also on almost every set piece. Obviously not penalties, but he took all their indirect free kicks, all their direct free kicks.
Yeah.
Took most of the corners, if I remember correctly. Chilwell maybe on a few. I think Chilwell will have, obviously, when Maddison was out, will have taken most of them. I don't know if Harvey Barnes got a couple, maybe.
Did Tielemans take some corners, maybe? I think Tielemans
Oh, that's a
maybe
good
on
shout.
some set pieces.
That's a good shout.
But yeah.
And again, when Maddison drops out, Tielemans sort of takes up that, not quite the number 10 by any means, but the more creative mantle.
He does.
So I think you'd see him on more set pieces. I'd be interested to see when they were all in the team. I think that's the one you'd want to look at. But then that's nearly a year ago. Things have changed.
Things have changed. He's now a £50 million left back.
Oh yeah.
So you know, England's number 1 too. I don't know if he was there a year ago.
Mendy claimed a ball coming into the box, completely free, but he's claimed it.
Great. So Mendy actually getting his hands on the ball for once. Going back to the clock, we're at 60 minutes. We've not had any subs yet from Palace or from Chelsea. In terms of players on the bench, Palace would usually look to call on a Batshuayi, but of course he's a lone player from Chelsea, so won't be involved today. What can Palace do to try and get into this game, Seb? Is it a case of a substitution, or is it a case of actually commit some numbers? Maybe change the system a little bit. I don't know.
Exactly what we've just seen there. We've seen Zaha attacking Chelsea's defence, getting just to the edge of the area and having a shot blocked. I think, like you said, they're going to have to push a bit more, but it's only one. They only need one opportunity. They're not going to throw everyone forward. I think what we'll see maybe is them trying to engage the ball higher up the pitch, which then hopefully gives us more of that space behind that we want. In terms of the opportunities to exploit, it's still Eze, it's still Zaha. It's still the fact that I think if they can get a run at that Chelsea defence, it's not the most settled, the most solid we've seen. I think they'll be hoping for that one break on the counter, that one ball that falls their way.
Yeah. Majahad asks, transfer Reece James out or not? I'm going to give you a really quick answer. I would keep the faith because I think he starts game week 5 against Southampton. And all the questions in the chat today are about Werner and Reece James. And it's funny, they're the 2 I own. And yes, we're interested in them, but we can't spend the whole 2 hours talking about them. So apologies there, guys.
Werner might have been through there. So exactly what we were saying. Palace are pushing higher up the pitch now to try and win the ball.
Yeah.
Which means Jorginho pulls off a lovely turn and sees Werner coming in from the left into that striker slot.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Tries to play him through.
Beautiful from
That's
Jorginho.
so close to going through. That's what we want from Tino Werner. And Palace have also just got forward now, had a shot, not a great angle, had a shot come in that Mendy's easily palmed away.
That's great from Jorginho, but also good to see Werner there is level with Tammy. One's going there, one's going there. It's the front two that he had at Leipzig, that exact lineup. It's off a bigger forward going one way and Werner going the other, trying to get in behind. That's what Werner wants. And maybe now he's going to get that space and that ball is on because Palace are probably 10 yards higher up the pitch, right?
Yeah, I think my decision on Werner, like I said, if he drops 0.2, I would think about it. I know price changes aren't everything, but they count for a bit in this early season, and I want to protect my value so I can move more later. Especially, Hudson-Odoi's just come in and put a shot, easily blocked. There's definitely space there, though. We've seen as many chances in the last few minutes as we had in the previous, 20? And
that was Havertz carrying the ball. Hudson-Odoi brings it onto his left foot. He looks to bend it, but yeah, good block from Saka. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. We're seeing the shots now. And
that's what I want to see from Werner. If I think going forwards, so far based on today, my decision has not paid off. But I still have a transfer. It was very much about trying to hold that transfer to have 2 for the break. Maybe I can use 3, save that wild card. I think we hope obviously football continues. We hope COVID, it's flaring up a bit again now, but we hope it stays to a level where everyone is safe and comfortable. But we don't know whether matches are called off or whether just half my team are out for 2 weeks in a couple of months.
Yeah.
I think keeping that wild card for that emergency situation could be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, you're right. And I blew it early. I say blew it. I'm happy I made it.
Sorry.
But if you have got the wild
card, you've made a terrible decision. That's what I'm.
The wild card is so individual, isn't it? But if you have got it and you don't need to use it, I don't like taking hits. So mine was either an 8-point hit or a wild card. No, I actually was happy to use the wild card for that. And yeah, look, I will take hits through the season, but never an 8. Milivojevic looks like he's coming on. I'm guessing it'll be for McCarthy probably, but it'll be for one of the McCarthys.
They're certainly looking to get their feet on the ball a bit more and try and move it forward.
Yeah. And Azpilicueta's been booked. Cynical foul on Eze at the halfway line. I love Azpilicueta for that. Jorginho's getting a bit of space. Tammy's now coming short. Good to see. Werner is still on the left, but he looks to be a little bit more central and a little bit higher, which we're liking. And Chilwell's not scared to put a shot in, and it looks like it's another Chelsea corner, Seb.
Yeah. So yeah, I think going forward, I'm seeing 2-0
Come on!
on the app over here. I've not seen it coming yet.
Kev's always first to let us know, or often first. Kev, did Zuma goal? Okay, is that a Chilwell assist then from the corner?
That's going to be a Chilwell assist.
Or is there a drop down?
It's been headed out. Corner was headed out. Chilwell's back on it on the left. Puts the ball into the box. Zuma's going up. That's your goal. Nice header. Very nice header. Chilwell to Zuma.
I'll tell you what. I've just been talking about Zuma's goal threat.
How much is he? 5?
5. And he's it's a
Tempting.
really good header. Wow, he hangs. That's Cristiano Ronaldo hang time.
Oh, easy there. Cristiano Ronaldo.
That hang time from Zuma. I mean, bearing in mind he's jumping against either Kouyate or Sacco. Both are good centre backs. Chelsea needed that. This is good for Werner owners, by the way, guys. 2-0. Palace have to have a good go now. It's now or never for them.
He's found that little space in between the two centre backs or the two markers very, very nicely there, isn't he?
Just seeing
got in front of his man, yeah.
Oh, it's a great ball from Chilwell as well, isn't it? Really good cross, and Zuma just hangs.
Goal, assist, free bonus, clean sheet probably. You'd hope from Chilwell. Good week.
Really good week, mate. And loads of us in the chat and myself are on James going, why didn't we have Chilwell? But, this is, of course, his Premier League debut. Interesting now to see what subs Frank makes, because only 10 minutes ago at 0-0, he'd have been thinking, who do I need to bring on? That mindset will have completely changed. There's probably no need to change anything as things stand. Going into an international break, no fixture for Chelsea now for 10 days, 2 weeks. No need to necessarily make subs.
Oh, just something I was just remembered on the international break. I think Ancelotti was saying that James will come back on the Wednesday night before their match after the international break. So one to keep an eye on is not a reason to transfer him out, but there's a chance I think he starts on the bench next game week, not this game week, but next game week. So something to keep an eye on for Everton there and James holders.
Do you know where he's coming back from? Is he playing in South America or?
You'd have to assume so. Ancelotti was talking about him coming back late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, and if he's not ready, Ancelotti said he would come on from the bench.
Okay. Bilbao reckons Werner should be subbed off. I don't think he will be, mate. Look, Frank wants his strikers scoring goals. He wants them to be confident and get confidence from goals. I think Werner will be given 90 because this is as good a chance now as he's going to have to start his Premier League goal scoring. 2-0 up against Palace.
Do you think we see Pulisic? I guess if he's still not entirely fit, maybe this is an opportunity not to give him minutes. If all he needs is time on the pitch now, I think he comes on very soon.
I think he comes on. I think Werner. I think you're right. If he's ready, he comes on, and he comes on for Tammy, and then Werner will go to the 9. This is now a game at 2-0 where Werner can be the 9. It's not tight at 0-0 where you might need that outlet cross or you might need that long ball in there. It's a different game that's more open. It will suit Werner being down the middle, I think, and I think that's
I'd
the
like
sub.
To see that.
I hope that's the sub he makes. I'm hoping he had in his head, I said it at the start, Pulisic will get 20 minutes and we're on 68, 69 minutes now, so I'm hoping Pulisic gets his time. If he isn't ready to come on, I wouldn't have thought he'd have been named on the bench unless it was just a sort of scaremongering tactic or something, I don't know.
That's one of those, you often see that, don't you? You often see a player named on the bench, either for an impact, which then they don't come on, or someone to gain fitness and they then again don't come on when they would.
Yeah.
I wonder if sometimes it's just as much as, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but it's look, okay, if I have to, I've got Pulisic on the bench, but he's in the squad, he's involved, he's with the boys there at the stadium today. I can make the decision later, almost.
Yeah, Everton team used the midfield 3 is Decore, Tom Davies instead of Allen, and Sigurdsson instead of Andre Gomez. Rodriguez, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, big news there, does start.
Richarlison does start.
And then
massive.
For Brighton, we've got obviously Ryan in goal. They're going with the back 3, the White, Duncan, Webster combination that served them well so far. Lamptey starts, Basuma's back from the ban, Alzate in the middle and Solly March left wing back. The front 3 is Trossard, Connolly and Morpie. So strong team with Brighton. They've got Basuma back, that will help them. And Everton, missing Alan, missing Andre Gomez. Could see, by the way, Sigurdsson on penalties today instead of Richarlison. Predictions for that one, Seb? I think that's going to be a draw. I think Brighton. I think I could see 1-1, 2-2. I think Brighton will give them a very good game.
I think that's a good shout. We've seen Everton's defence be pretty solid so far.
Yeah.
But again, we hardly have any data. Some of that is against the 10-man West Brom. Maybe they've not been tested fully yet. I wonder that platform, the Alan Decore, Gomez, and with James on the right, really does seem to be the thing that's brought about that success. Especially in the first week against Tottenham, you just saw them absolutely controlling the game with those players. Without two of them really today, I wonder if that changes the way they're going to have to approach it as much as, ball into the Chelsea box there. Chilwell chests it back to Mendy, who just about takes it, and he's down holding a hip, I think.
Who's down?
Mendy. Although maybe just one of those to let the referee know he got touched as opposed to a real injury.
Right, good. I was going to say, come on, Mendy, we need you fit.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's much in that. I think he's just taking the opportunity to hold on to the ball for a bit.
So good composure from Chilwell. I'm just seeing it now. The ball comes into the back stick and Chilwell, comfortable, just chest it back. I don't know if that's good composure or a little bit risky. But comfortable for Chelsea. Still no real goal threat from Palace.
Absolutely. So I wonder if today changes how Everton play a little bit. Maybe they lose a little bit more of the possession. And like you say, Brighton are a tidy outfit. With Richarlison playing, that's their first choice front three with James, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. So I think the goal threat isn't too different. Decore is very, very useful in the middle. Gomez has been a big part of it. Alan maybe is more on the defensive side, although of course recovering and recycling is a big part of getting forward. But I'd fancy maybe Brighton to be the best test they've had so far of their defence. What about you?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be really close. I think there will be goals though. Although Everton's defences look quite good, I think Brighton can expose that with their wing backs. And I do always look at Pickford and think it's shaky. And I do think Everton still need a centre back. I think they've bid for Godfrey at Norwich. But even with Godfrey, I don't know who I'm not comfortable with Mina and Keane as a centre-back partnership. I think, they were really keen to get Tomori off Chelsea, but then we didn't want to send him out on loan. I think Everton are one centre-back away from being actually sort of challenging for potentially even top four, but challenging for European places for sure. But I do think they need that one more centre-back. By the way, Gyro, I would just go with Gyro, has come on for Palace. Riederweireld. Into the middle. So
nailed it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I used to work at Palace, so I've got no excuse. And when I worked there, he had signed, and I was actually quite excited about his signing because he was getting game time. I think at the time he had been capped by Holland. Frank de Boer had come in and was buying some, wanted to buy his fellow sort of Dutch player. And Roy Hodgson just doesn't play the guy. He's seen him, Mitchell is preferred at left back when Van Aanholt is out, and he can play left back. Does really well in central mid. I think he's a good footballer, but he's one that's just been on the bench for the last 2-3 seasons, and it's a real shame. This is a guy that's been capped by Holland that can't get anywhere near the Crystal Palace starting 11.
I think, like you say, it's just another manager's signing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Frank de Boer and Roy Hodgson couldn't, worlds apart. and Frank de Boer just wasn't given time. He had 4 or 5 games and got sacked, and he was trying to get Palace to play football. And these were players that had been under Sam Allardyce for a couple of seasons, playing a very direct style of play, a very different style to what de Boer wanted. Pulisic, by the way, is warming up, promising to see.
Palace are definitely pressing Chelsea much higher here now. That first 30 yards into Chelsea's half, where they were just leaving them alone before, they are now very much pressing the ball, which you'd hope opens up those spaces. But like you, I think I would like to see Werner come into the middle with Pulisic on the left.
Yeah, do you know what? We're going to see Pulisic come on. He's going to get a goal or an assist, and then the bandwagon for Pulisic come game week 5 will be high. Problem with Pulisic long term is he does seem to be one of these players that's going to suffer from injuries.
Sure.
For a young lad, he's had a lot of knocks. He gets a lot of knocks. And I just worry from an FPL perspective, the last thing we want to be doing is moving players on for injuries and using up those really valuable spots. And And at times you have to gamble on those injured players. You know, I thought that with Danny Ings last year. I didn't buy Danny Ings because I was like, he's always injured. And then I just had to bite the bullet and go, no, I need Danny Ings. He's actually fit and not getting injured. But it's always a concern of mine with injury-prone players. But look, they're not going to be injured their whole careers. Well, they might be. They might be I don't know, Darren Anderton for our older viewers.
Ooh, Tammy has got very close. Hudson-Odoi crosses it in. Tammy heads just narrowly wide. It's not a bad header at all.
And so Hudson-Odoi's done really well there to beat Mitchell. Sort of stands it up. Tammy does well to get in front of his man, but should be hitting the target, shouldn't he?
Oof, I don't know. It's one of those. If you were to see the XG on that, it's probably very low. It's a headed chance, 2 defenders in front of him. I guess you could say he should hit the target, but he could have put it straight at Guaita. What he's gone for is low into that corner, right? Which is always a higher risk shot to take. So there's always a chance he puts it wide. If he gets it on target, it's a higher chance of a goal, you'd think.
Yeah, to be fair, I've just seen it again. It's a lot closer than I gave it. Penalty for Chelsea. Penalty for Chelsea.
Really?
Jorginho versus Werner. Who's going to take it?
Werner. Abraham wins it. Abraham wins it.
Okay. Who's taking
so
this?
No
is
points
big.
for Werner yet. Oh goodness. This is potentially my next week's transfer in one moment here.
Oh, I tell you what. Is that definitely a penalty? A VAR going to look at that?
Got replay here. Oh, I think that's a penalty. Leg out, goes over the leg.
Jorginho's on it by the looks of it.
Abraham wins it as opposed to him actually being taken out. But
Jorginho's
you leave the leg
on
there,
it.
It's to go over.
Is
he?
Yeah, Jorginho's on it. According to the chat, Jorginho's on it.
Jorginho hits the post. It comes back to Timo Werner. That's what we're going for, right?
Yeah, or it's retaken because the goalkeeper's off his line, and then Werner takes.
Oh, I like that.
On. Yeah,
I'll go with that. That suits the narrative. I'll take it.
Let's go with that. Oh, young Mitchell there. Bit rash. I mean, Jorginho, will he go for it? Oh, okay. Gaddy has let us know again. It's a goal. Jorginho, did he go for his skip? That's the real quiz. Because Jorginho, with his skip, we've seen him miss this season, but scored in the shootout against Tottenham.
Even though I know it's a goal, part of me still hopes.
Yeah. Are you sure it didn't bounce off the post and come to Werner?
That's a good penalty. He takes his skip, he puts it into the opposite corner to where Guaita goes. Easy enough.
I get a lot of stick for this, but Jorginho, I'm not just saying this because he scored, you would have heard it on the stream before. Jorginho is my favourite player for Chelsea, and I'm a Chelsea fan.
Really?
Jorginho is my favourite player, probably. I'm not going to say in the Premier League because I haven't thought about it, but for Chelsea, he's my favourite player. I support Italy when it comes to national teams. I've watched this guy for Napoli a lot. I've watched a lot of Serie A. Jorginho, for me, is the best in the world at what he does. Now, I'm not saying he's the best DM in the world or the best quarterback in the world, but in terms of a passing midfielder that's comfortable on the ball, that can lead on the pitch, he's an absolute class act. Remember, this is the guy that Pep Guardiola was desperate to sign for Man City, and when he didn't sign him, he didn't buy anyone. It took him a year to then go and buy Rodri. He was desperate for Jorginho.
He does a very specific job, doesn't he? I think it's one of those. Sarri obviously brought him in from Napoli because he wanted that role in the team, and you saw he had a silly number of touches under Sarri's system. He was controlling the entire thing. I also think it's very easy to build a team that doesn't need him or his type of player.
Yeah.
If you were to name your sort of world 11, don't need to argue about that too much, but you'd probably go for a Thiago, a Cruz, a Kimmich sort of pivot there, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Jorginho would be in that conversation.
You've got to play a certain way to
specifically want that role.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Frank doesn't know if he wants to play that role. Frank doesn't know if he wants Jorginho. Like the end of last season, Project Restart, he dropped him, and after a few games, he realised actually Kante's not keeping possession enough. Kante's not threatening enough, and Jorginho came back in, and we started winning games. And then the transfer rumours died down a bit. Azpilicueta, by the way, has just gone down and gritting his teeth. There could be Reece James coming on. I don't know if you're ahead of me, Seb.
He's taking a throw in for me here.
Oh, okay, fine.
So he seems okay. So what with 10 minutes plus added time left? What are you thinking on Timo Werner? Let's say it's 2 weeks' time. It's the Friday night. There have been no injuries. Your team is fine. You've got that transfer. What are you thinking?
A lot for me depends on Son. So Son's in my team. If Son plays or there's good news about his hamstring, he's definitely going to play game week 5, I'd probably keep Son in and sell Werner. If there is news that Son's hamstring is worse than we thought and it's been Mourinho mind games, I'd probably sell Werner. What I need to do in my squad is sell a premium, and that is either Werner or Son. I'm not selling my Man City players. Bank some money so then I can get a Liverpool defender in. So to do that...
Azpilicueta puts a ball into the box. It's just cut out. I wouldn't say it's close to an own goal, but there's a little bit of a risk. We've got another Chelsea corner here.
So yeah, I like the look of Morpie. I like the look of Ollie Watkins at Villa, but their fixtures need a couple of weeks to get good.
Sure.
And I might downgrade, or I just go simple to a Danny Ings. But Danny Ings, I feel like if I was doing that, I should have done it this week because of the West Brom fixture.
I think Danny Ings would be my move, probably. We'll see what comes up during the international break. And like you say, yeah, absolutely. Today was the fixture. But the way I've tried to look at it, we discussed before.
Another penalty! Another penalty! Another penalty
Really?
for Chelsea. Surely this is Werner.
Okay, take fantasy football out of it. Do you give it to Werner?
Yes.
Or do you just give your penalty taker it?
No, you give it to Werner because you're 3-0 up,
okay.
And he's your big
Havertz
money
has won it.
He's your big money forward, and you need him scoring goals in the Premier League. This is going to give him confidence, surely. Okay, so ball
Abraham's got the ball in his hands.
No! Jesus! Seriously?
We'll see. Yeah, that is a penalty, I'd say. Another one. Havertz just takes the, yeah.
Is Tammy seriously going to take this penalty? Jorginho's taking it again, apparently.
Jorginho.
Oh, Havertz has done well.
You know what? They're having a conversation on the spot. Azpilicueta has taken it off Tammy and given it to Jorginho. Timo Werner's nowhere near that conversation.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I think for me that might tip me towards. So we were saying beforehand about you plan and you don't want to base it on outcome. Got 4-0 here, so it looks like he scored. The thing for me is Azpilicueta
and Tammy having a little bit of a row. Tammy's sort of waving his arms around. Azpilicueta's going, no, give it to him. He's the penalty taker. His name's on the board in the dressing room.
Yeah,
do one, Tammy. You're a reserve striker anyway.
Exact same penalty.
Yeah?
Yeah, 4-0, very easy.
What's his ownership, Jorginho? He's probably on 10% owned. His price had gone up early because he had scored an early pen.
I don't know if it's one that you back going forward,
no,
right?
You don't.
I know you like Jorginho, but is he in Chelsea's strongest team?
If we want to play passing ball, then yeah, he is.
But then you're 100% backing penalties. I don't think he gets many points elsewhere. So you're going, I need penalties.
I think he's had 1 goal from open play at Chelsea.
There we go. So I wonder, it's one of those, was he 5 million at the start? So maybe it's your Souček spot. So maybe, but I wonder if you can better spend that spot.
And I don't know if Frank will keep running with him. Havertz is really clever to win the penalty. I'm just seeing it again. He chips it and he knows he could get there, but he also knows he can draw a foul. Dinks it up. Clever footballer. It's
one of those, I'd say you've won a penalty but not dived or anything. If you're going to leave a leg there, it's there to go over if you want to try and play for it.
Yeah. 5.9% says Frode. I assume that's Jorginho. So yeah, good to know. I mean, that's it's not great for overall rank, 5.9%. But yeah, interesting that Werner was nowhere near that combo.
So we've got Kante off for Kovacic and Pulisic on for Hudson-Odoi. So that'll be Werner still on the left.
So Kante off for
or
Kovacic.
on the right.
Kante
off for Kovacic and Hudson-Odoi off for Pulisic.
So does that mean
Timo Werner's probably still wide, you'd think?
Is he wide on the left or on the right? Because Pulisic can play either, but we're used to seeing Pulisic on the left, aren't we? But I think it looks like he's on the right.
Timo Werner, Pulisic on the right, Timo Werner on the left from what I can see here.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm thinking, we were talking before the match about you don't want to make your decision based on outcome, but you want to make it on the information you've got available.
Yeah.
2 new pieces of information here. Pulisic is on the pitch and Werner's on the left. Doesn't mean that will be the case forever, but it's clearly an option. And he is almost certainly not on a penalty. If Jorginho doesn't take one and Tammy's on the pitch, you'd think he's badly going to want that. For me, I'm thinking there's something better I can do with that spot now. I've got 2 transfers. I've got 9.4 million available in that player. I wonder if I can use it better. I didn't make it this week, and obviously on outcome, I possibly should have made it that week. But if you consider a transfer is worth 4 points, even when you're not paying 4 points for it, it means you're not making another transfer.
Yeah.
So if Tino Werner gets 2 points, I need Danny Ings to get more than a single goal get some bonus, get an assist or whatever, for that transfer to have come off for me. So I'm comfortable. If I end up a couple of points down, but with a transfer in the bank for 2 weeks of potentially loads of injuries and positive COVID test transfers, I'm not too unhappy about that. It's not the optimal outcome, but I'll take it. Have I convinced you yet?
There's one problem here, Seb.
Go ahead.
Southampton.
I think that's fair.
It's the way
But
Southampton
then,
play football.
Chelsea in the box.
Chelsea chance with Werner, actually.
I saw, so Havertz played Pulisic through, it was offside. Guaita came out and blocked it from quite a wide angle.
I think, yeah, look, we want a Chelsea asset, right? They've scored 4 goals today. They're going to be a team that scores goals. And I know in my heart of hearts that asset will not be Werner. And I don't know who it will be, but it will be Pulisic, Havertz, or Ziyech. And if I want one of those midfielders, I'm going to need
Are they looking at a Palace penalty here? Or are we just seeing replays? Without sound, I'm not sure, but on a corner... Oh, no, they're not looking at it, are they? I don't know if you're about to see that replay. On that corner, there's a decent shout there.
Yeah, so it's Ayew being dragged back by Jorginho, but it's very little in that. I think that's harsh. But yeah, I'd be surprised if that would be given. But those of you in the chat are saying about, 2 more penalties today. I'm going to fill my team of penalty takers. Guys, today's penalties have nothing to do with law changes. Yeah. They are just legit penalties that you get in any given season. So don't read too much into that. Bonus points as it stands, by the way, is Jorginho and Chilwell both on 50 BPS. And then Zuma on 36. So those 3 will be the 3 bonus point big ones for Chelsea, I think.
Yeah, I think Southampton is a good point, but I wonder, we were talking earlier about them maybe being the opportunity for Timo Werner to get points.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I would now weigh it up against who am I going to transfer in? What do I think?
Is it Danny Ings against Chelsea? The irony there, if Werner
Exactly. So it's the, who do I think could get those points in that role? I think the price change might make it for me. I think you've got to think Timo Werner is going down another one here, which isn't the end of the world. If he goes down 2, maybe I start thinking about making a move. Because if my other target also goes up 0.1 or 0.2, that's a whole difference between a 5 and a 5.5 midfielder.
Yeah. So that price will be one to keep an eye on. Might not go tonight, but that Werner price drop will almost certainly go by Monday, Tuesday, I'd have thought. I'd be very surprised if it didn't, if he blanks today. And if there's other forwards in the game that do well, we might see Martial score a hat-trick or Ings score a hat-trick, and that's what we often get. If all
Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, if all the other forwards blank, which just won't happen, then Werner's price maybe doesn't drop. But
what I'm very tempted by is using my 2 free transfers, maybe a hit, maybe not, and going, okay, this is an opportunity to go Timo Werner to Ryan Brewster.
I was just about to say that. Do you go Brewster?
And do something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. I must admit, the Brewster appeal is now there. The problem with Brewster is, yes, he's a 4.5 player that will be playing, so that's quite nice. But Sheffield United won't score much. You can't expect much from him. It's just you're then setting yourself up for a 3-5-2 with Brewster, probably your first sub, which rules out so many good forwards. That your pool of forwards then outside of Brewster is of course just 2 forwards. Whilst if
what about 4-4-2?
Yeah, or even a 4-4-2. Yeah, you go Trent.
I quite like the idea of I've got Trent, Robertson, and Justin at the moment. And Ferguson and Mitchell. I quite like the idea of turning one of them into a Lucas Dean.
Yeah, and Ferguson shown by the way. Hodgson quoted yesterday saying still slow signs of recovery. I don't think he gave any time frame, but that Nathan Ferguson, the 4 million Palace defender, still red flagged and might be out for he might be waiting another month or 2.
Yeah, I had him in at the beginning just because I had Mitchell and I was like, okay, if Ferguson recovers in a couple of weeks, I just want to have one of them. Fine. Yeah. Like you say, if it's a couple of months now, Mitchell looks like he's doing a good job in that spot, apart from the penalty today. It's tempting. I like the idea of those long-term consistent defenders for a sort of similar price to a midfielder, but with possibly a lot higher points.
Yeah, I must admit, I do too. And 4-4-2 could be an option. It's just if you go back to the Brewster, if you do go Brewster, you can only have 2 from the following DCL, which I think is going to be a bit of a mainstay. So then you've potentially only got 1 forward slot to have a Jimenez, an Ings, a Martial. There's just so many. Werner, should he come good again? A Vardy, a Kane. I don't know. It's a hard one.
I mean, that's the thing this season, right? I don't think I don't think you can name a team where you go, I have the players I want and the slots I want
Yeah.
for a couple of weeks. There's so many options, especially up front and in midfield, that you're always going to miss someone who could score well. I think it's more about looking at your team and your weaknesses and strengths, as opposed to, if you chase DCL this week and Jimenez and Ings both score a couple of goals, which is perfectly possible,
Yeah.
you want all three of them. Then
Yeah.
you said, Man United hit form and Martial scores a hat trick. Well, you physically cannot have all of those players. So either you're chopping and changing between them all the time, and we've seen how that sometimes turns out, or you pick your players and you choose who you want to rotate between.
Is there any sort of in that 6 million bracket, Seb, that can still do the whole Werner to the 6 million forward that's perhaps a little bit more likely to score than, say, Brewster or Sheffield United, and you can still save your money and upgrade elsewhere? So, for example, a Mitrovic price point, or even, because I mentioned him earlier, Morpay at 6.5, who's on pens and Brighton look good and he's getting minutes. Connolly is starting today but isn't nailed every week.
Timo Werner was in the position you'd want him there. He's just taken I think he's gone for a bit of a fancy first touch and just taken it away from himself.
Oh, shame. And then the other one to consider, as I mentioned, Ollie Watkins will score goals at Aston Villa. And their fixtures aren't great, but in 2 or 3 game weeks time, they swing. And I've got my eye on him too. So yeah. But that makes me think...
What about Shea Adams? I know a lot of people are down on him, but the stats are decent. He's got the exact same fixtures as Danny Ings by definition. I started with him and still have him. If he keeps playing, I think he looks like their first choice, at least most of the time.
I started with him too. Yeah. He's a championship striker that gets into Premier League positions.
Yeah. Maybe not unfair.
He can't. Like Tammy. He can't hit a barn door, but he seems to work well with Danny Ings, and he gets the chances, but he fires them straight at the keeper, or he gets the chances.
I guess the difference is you're paying 6 million. If that's I know he's getting into the positions and not putting them all away, but that's why he's 6 and not 8. Yeah. Maybe I'm happy to pay that price for someone who has a 1 in 5 conversion rate as opposed to a 1 in 3 or something.
Sayo Jamawese both mentioned Antonio, and yeah, he's my thinking too. Come game week 8, the fixtures improve, and again, Souček, Antonio are 2 to look at. West Ham have been, they're impressive last time out against Wolves. Antonio will get us goals, and he's dropped in price. Antonio, I think he's 6.3.
That's an excellent shout. I think when the fixtures, maybe you want to move early now and get ahead of that. I think when the fixtures turn, like you say about game week 8, that's a very tempting one. We know his underlying XG is excellent, close to some of the best for his position.
Yeah, they appeal a little bit more to me than Brewster. Of course, Brewster allows them the money. And the other problem with Sheffield United is they have 6 forwards at that football club.
Yeah.
And Wilder changes those 6. I mean, I put Ollie Burke in there, who's listed as a midfielder but playing up front. Remember Moussa last season? He was getting points, we all jumped on him, and then he, out of nowhere, was rested. And then, he had an injury, but he wasn't. Then he was brought back and not played. So you just don't know. He'll always play 2 up top, Sheffield United, but will it be McGoldrick? Will it be McBurney? Will Sharp play? Will Burke come in? You just don't know. Moussa is always...
That is a very bad tackle. I'm not sure who that is. Someone's gone in on Zoom. Is it? Oh, Joe Ward has gone in. He's gone in to win the ball, to be fair. There's a loose ball, but he's gone feet up and full-time whistle. Okay, so Timo Werner has not come off today.
Is he definitely going, Seb, for you?
Don't know. I will stick to what I said beforehand.
Yeah.
The new information I've got today is that him being on the left is certainly possible long term, and he looks at best 3rd in the penalty pecking order.
Yeah.
But in terms of the fixture, it hasn't changed. I don't know. Has he had a shot today? He certainly hasn't had a good chance. I'll see what happens with the rest of the weekend, and then maybe that's the slot.
First half, he had the Thierry Henry curler into the corner.
Oh, of course. What about you?
I think I'm probably 50-50. I think there's a 50% chance I sell him, but it will be based on other players that do well this week, and it will be based on other fires I might need to put out depending on how my teams play and how my players play and injuries. So I'm not making a decision. I'm just hoping that price doesn't drop further in the next day or 2. If it does, then I will be tempted to sell before that price drop, because I've already taken a 9.5 to 9.4. I don't really want to absorb another one if there's a good chance that I'm selling him anyway. The thing that's putting me off, it's Southampton and the way they play. So I'll be watching Southampton this week to see how they look at the back. Yeah.
The thing that really tempts me, I haven't quite worked it out money wise, but a 4-4-2 with say Trent, Robbo, Dean, and a 4.5, and then say Jimenez and Ings up front. I think you could keep those 6 players with maybe the 4.5 rotating for almost the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And then it's a case of chopping
Or
in and out of those
Calvert-Lewin
players.
and
Exactly.
3 from 2. Yeah. 2 from those 3.
I'd be tempted with Ings. Obviously, it depends on money for the penalties and for just the long-term consistency. And I can go for say James for Everton, who I have and I really like. There isn't maybe that alternative at Southampton if you fancy some fixtures and you want to get involved. It's something to think about. I think I'm going to use this as an opportunity to look at structure rather than necessarily just one player.
Yeah, I think me too. And we've got a good time off now to do that. And as you say, Jimenez, Ings, they're both talisman. You can't really cover Jimenez's points with other Wolves players. You can't cover Ings' points with other Southampton players. But with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, although I own him and I'm keeping him and I'm very happy about that, there is an argument to say you can cover him with Richarlison, you can cover him with James. So yeah,
you could have all of those players, of course. Coverage only works as long as they actually share some points. Yeah. James and Calvert-Lewin could both score, and having both of them is a good shout. But I'd like to see this more of a this is a man now trying to claim he hasn't made a mistake. Yeah. I'd like to see this more of an opportunity to change up my team as opposed to just a Timo Werner failure. Don't get me wrong, it has not paid off, but I back my decision-making process going into it, and I don't intend to change that. There's no need to react to this one performance. I'll use the information I've got to go again.
Yeah. I promised myself it'd be one more week, so I hope I keep that part of the bargain and do have what it takes to sell Timo Werner. But it's been an encouraging Chelsea display. The highlights from an FPL perspective, not just because they scored, but Zuma and Chilwell are both hopefully going to be nailed in that back line. Zuma is 5 million, guys. Even if you're looking at a goalkeeper change, if you are in a wild card, Edouard Mendy had very little to do today because Thiago Silva was so good in front of him. And then going forward, Havertz in the number 10 role was as good as he's probably played in a Chelsea shirt. So there's positive signs there in that Chelsea team. Jorginho obviously with 2 penalties, but moving forward, that is all he will offer in terms of goal conversion. You've been watching Scoutcast Matchday. Thank you, guys. Please do follow Fancy Football Scout on Twitter for all your team news. Consider joining up as a member. The members area is fantastic. Subscribe to this channel. Follow Seb on Twitter and myself. Seb, last word from you. Hope to see you again soon. But in terms of looking ahead to the weekend and FPL in general,
I can forget about Timo Werner if Leeds beat Man City.
Love that. Yeah, for me, it's all about not Leeds beating City, but City beating Leeds, and the City big boys going big, captaining Sterling. So yeah, look forward to that later. But thank you guys for watching. We look forward to seeing you every weekend, every match day weekend. We will be doing a Scoutcast match day. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.